That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And tonight, one day late, fashionably late, we are here to celebrate the 85th anniversary of one Donald Duck.
Yes,
Oh,
indeed.
All right, Dragon. This is a big one, man. This is one of the legacy podcasts, my friend. Now, of course, Dragon, you and I, we already dug into one of my big bucket list podcasts that I had on the Dragon. It's funny, you have a master plan for me, kind of involving DC stuff. I don't know. I'm not privy to it. But Dragon, I have a master plan involving like all the classic Disney stuff, my friend. And this Donald Duck retrospective that we're doing right now, let me tell you, Dragon, it's all part of the plan. So yeah, I'm very excited to get into this one. We're going to basically kind of like, we're not going to cover every single short that Donald Duck has ever been in, folks, because of course that'd be a massive endeavor. That'd be like a project that would take years and years and years to cover. What we're going to get down is basically, if you were to I'm going to describe it, Dragon. I'm going to describe it to you, all right? Dragon, do you know the fact that the Disney parks are famous for theme park smells?
I mean, the fact that like they're pumping like a certain scent around certain areas.
Right. Like you have the candy shop on Main Street. You have, of course, the Pirates of the Caribbean smell when you walk in. Are you the oranges on Soarin' Over California? You're familiar with that whole concept, right?
Well, I'm not familiar with all the various varieties, but I knew about the gimmick. But no, I don't really know all the specifics.
Okay, well, point being, one of the big markets right now in the Disney fan community is candles. Candles that condense the smell, and you light them up, and it's like, I can smell the oranges from Soarin' Over California, or it smells like Pirates of the Caribbean in here. So, Dragon, we're just going to be an essence of Donald, my friend, an essence of Donald. I really
absolutely. Now, speaking of
worded that better.
And you could have. Before we get things popping here, I just want to kind of shout out, to quote the great Bob Barker, a fan loyal and true. I think I'm butchering that, but let's just go with it anyway. I want to welcome Pink Pearl Disney Wishes to our kind of our live extravaganza for Donald Duck reaching his 85th year, and of course. Pink Pearl Disney Wishes, or Pink Pearl Apple in our hearts, but Disney Wishes, branding. I won't fault it. Point being, is more welcome here. Of course, a regular for DuckTales, big DuckTales aficionado, especially a big fan of the Three Caballeros, and we actually have something in relation to the Three Caballeros I wanted to spring on you here. Asked live by Pink Pearl Apple. Sorry, Pink Pearl Disney Wishes. It's going to take a little time, like Fat Man Beyond to basically like Fat Man on Batman to Fat Man Beyond. It's a little transitional change. I'll get used to it anyway. Says, hey, can I make an episode suggestion? Now that Legends of the Three Caballeros was announced and confirmed by D23 to be an opening day series for Disney Plus. Sorry, I guess the better way to phrase that is that's going to be on the Disney Plus lineup. So I guess maybe you and Jacob could cover that once that's kind of uploaded for D23 going through the Three Caballeros series. What do you think? I know I'm just kind of springing that on you, but it's kind of tossing it out there. November 12th, 2019. Of course, big day when Disney Plus is gonna spring. It's gonna just a whole bunch of really great stuff coming to Disney Plus. I myself am very excited for it. I mean, again, with all the Marvel stuff they've announced, with Marvel What If, and beyond that, of course, for me, the big one being the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. So, I mean, Pink Pearl Apple, I mean, most certainly, I think we can make that happen in some way, shape, or form. I think either like an overview or, I can't promise you an episode by episode thing, but definitely like an overview of some variety, I'm sure. So, if I may, let's kick things off right here. Let's kick things off right. I want to go around here. We're going to talk about kind of our intro to Donald Duck. How to have that, because of course we're talking about a paragon here, a paragon of Disney, a member of the Fab Five, if you will. I still every time I hear the Fab Five being the name for like the five classic Disney characters, I'm always a little suspect of it because it sounds suspiciously made up. I gotta be honest, but because I remember going through the parking lots all the way back in Florida, all the way back in Disney World, and always seeing like your five standards, and of course the Fab Five. Now, anyway, point being, of the Fab Five, we have an utter and beloved paragon here in Donald Duck. So, of course, you reach a milestone. Mickey Mouse recently, I believe last year, had turned 90. Now Donald Duck has turned 85. So, for me, just a little opening thing I wanted to kind of say about Donald Duck is, to me, the big hook with Donald Duck as a character, the thing I like about him very much, the thing that always jumps out at me and kind of speaks to why he's endured for 85 years at this point, is the fact that Donald Duck is a paragon with... Basically, he's kind of a paragon of humanity amongst the Disney characters, amongst the Fab Five specifically, of the enduring kind of staples of Disney. Again, he's this character who does reflect us. At the end of the day, Donald Duck reflects us. Mickey Mouse is sort of like the marketing giant and icon, the reflection of Walt. The way Spider-Man and Stan Lee are kind of simpatico, Walt Disney, Mickey Mouse, they're also simpatico. Donald Duck doesn't quite have that, but he's kind of the people's Disney character, I feel, in many regards. To quote Pink Pearl Disney Wishes here, and Donnie is my second favorite Disney character. And again, that's completely warranted. Because Donald Duck, again, the people's character, of course, a go-to. When you think Disney, one of the characters it's kind of goes to when you think of the originals, of the greats, is Donald Duck. Now, I'd make the assumption maybe Mickey Mouse is number one there. Could be Mickey, could be Donald, could be somebody else. I don't know. But yes, Donald Duck, he's just this deeply human character who, again, reflects us, and that we get flustered sometimes. We're not perfect. We try. It's the fact that Donald Duck tries and he keeps getting back up. We not necessarily like an instructional sort of video like we get with Goofy, but Donald Duck, he persists. He persists and he gets overwhelmed. And he fires from the hip emotionally. It's just these raw emotion, where Mickey Mouse is more of just kind of like these what we should be going for, what we should be aiming for in terms of kind of an emotional stability. But the fact of the matter is, we're not emotionally stable. We're all flawed. We're all imperfect. And I remember the first time I also want to kind of get at when we first were introduced to Donald Duck. I, for one, was introduced to Donald Duck in animation through two things. The first thing, I want to say from the VHS tapes, from the years of just watching things on VHS tapes, and they include, they would include like shorts at the start. Or hold on a second, folks.
All right, wow, that was the worst timing for a Hangouts crash ever. Wow,
you got it. So real quick, just want to get confirmation on this.
Just to quell my concerns, Dragon, you have been going on to your first encounters with Donald, right? You've been moving right along, chucking right along on this engine.
Well, yeah, it was basically just kind of gilding the lily a little bit. Okay. Kind of talking about breaching the milestone. I was about to get into my first appearance, but also just to get kind of a yes or no on this here. Pink Pearl Disney Wishes asked if when Disney Plus drops, they're going to have the Three Caballeros series, the Legends of the Three Caballeros series. That's going to be on Disney Plus, and she's wondering if maybe you and Jacob would cover it for cover in some way, shape, or form once it because it's going to be on the various catalogs of Disney Plus. It's an interest you.
Honestly, it's something that's definitely been on my mind to cover for a long time, and Disney Plus would just make it all the easier. So yeah, I can definitely. Now, if we're going to cover every individual episode, that's basically what I imagine we would do with that was we kind of format it the same way that we formatted the recent Big Hero 6 episodes, where we'd, cover like maybe 4 or 5 at a time in a big like hour and a half, 2-hour podcast instead of breaking them up into individual 20-minute podcasts. I feel like that format would work better. But we'll do it in some way, shape, or form regardless, for sure.
Yeah, basically, Pink Pearl Disney Wishes kind of echoes some of my sentiments on Donald here, saying Donald hits 85, go Duckman, our favorite PTSD uncle. He tries and he cares, and he's more
the real Duckman. You hear that, Jason Alexander?
and he is more human than any of the Fab Five. That's pretty much what I was getting, what I was going on about with Donald Duck. Again, I think one of the things that jumps out about Donald Duck is he's kind of a paragon of humanity amongst the classic Disney characters. I think that's the main reason he's kind of endured for 85 years. Why do you think he's endured for 85 years?
I mean, I think you hit it right on the head. Not only do I think, hold on, Dragon. First of all, do you mind copying and pasting everything into the chat so we can get everything up and rolling?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Sorry. I think it's a mix of like he is definitely probably the most broadly comedic and the most relatable, and I feel like that's a potent mix, Dragon. You got to factor in the comedy there. You got to factor in the comedy. Because, of course, you have Clarence Nash, who we're going to talk about in just a moment, who, kind of refined a whole different style of voice acting with almost kind of like an Andy Kaufman level of meta non-voice acting with the way that he performed Donald Duck. And that delivery has just kind of like drawn out the character where it's like he's got that delivery. He's got kind of like the slapstick comedy mixed with the anger issues, which just lead to these elaborate kind of hilarious situations. But he's also got a lot of relatability to him, of course, as we've hyped on time and time again. He is a war veteran. He commands our respect. He served our country. And I just think he has a fascinating legacy behind him, Dragon. And I will go as far as to say, when all is said and done, out of all the Disney canon, from all the side characters and all the main characters and all the villains and all the heroes, Dragon, if I had a gun to my head and someone was like, you have 5 seconds to name your favorite Disney character unless you die. And my response would be Donald Duck. It'd be a gut reflex, Dragon. It'd be like it'd just be like, all right, no questions asked. Donald Duck. Easy answer. Donald Duck. So Dragon, let me transition that into my first experience with Donald.
Yeah, you mind turn the lights on while we're at it?
Oh yeah, for sure. My first experience with Donald, very obscure, but this is something that's kind of come up before in the Disneyland Fun, the Disneyland Fun sing-along song, Dragon. That videotape of all the Disney characters running around Disneyland singing songs like Zippity Doo-Dah and Grim Grinning Ghosts and Walking Right Down the Middle of Main Street, USA. Shout out to anyone who knows that VHS, because I gotta tell you, that's the thing that dreams are made of when it comes to my very, very, very early childhood nostalgia. And, of course, because that featured a lot of the famous Disney characters of the day, including all of the Fab Five and also Roger Rabbit, because it was right around that 89 time period. So Roger Rabbit was like the big character they were trying to promote. I did get quite a bit of exposure to Donald on that, Dragon, and believe it or not, I am pretty sure, I am like 90% sure that my first exposures to Donald were on those sing-along song VHS tapes. And here's the funny thing. There's another one that I remember from early childhood that I've been kind of trying to push to talk about in Seasonal Shenanigans, and you don't want to go for it, but it's the Christmas sing-along song. It's I believe it's the 12 Days of Christmas or something like that. And, there you get Scrooge McDuck and Donald, and it's all the costume characters, Dragon. So I had the image of Donald Duck as a costumed character before I had the image of Donald Duck as an animated character. Don't you think that's a little interesting, kind of like diving into my early childhood memories there?
It is.
And then, of course, Dragon, you're probably fearing that I'm going to bring this up, and yes, I'm going to bring this up a little bit. That led to Hipster Donald. My fascinating. But, Dragon, here's the thing. My parents, my grandparents, actually, they owned a costume shop, and I had that Donald Duck mask just lying around forever. And, okay, Dragon, look. This is going to be like the last word on Hipster Donald, or I have to bring it up. I
keep trying to kill him, and he keeps coming back.
He's dead. He's long dead. Have you actually seen him make an appearance? The mask is somewhere in a landfill somewhere, my friend. Trust me, you're not going to see him again. But my whole thing, I need to make kind of a eulogy to Hipster Donald here because it was a big part of the. Say what you will about Hipster Donald, Dragon, and of course, I feel like a lot of subscribers probably don't know Hipster Donald, but I feel like Hipster Donald was one of the big things that kind of got us a little bit of like attention. Like maybe it's not positive attention. Maybe it was just like, who the hell is this weirdo in the creepy Donald Duck mask? I'm sure it was that kind of attention. But you know what, Dragon? YouTube channels need a gimmick. Hipster Donald was my gimmick, and I stick to it. Now, having said that, Hipster Donald, I did kill off on screen. I literally like showed his beheaded corpse, and I was like, this is it. This is Hipster Donald's head, like right there. And so yeah, Hipster Donald canonically is definitely dead. But suffice to say, I did get a lot of exposure to Donald Duck from those early sing-along songs and VHS tapes. Gonna wrap it back around to a positive thing, Dragon, all right? I remember during the Grim Grinning Ghost segment in the Disneyland Fun sing-along song VHS tape, they had, it was basically like all the villains, and the villains were like incredibly creepy. You had like Maleficent, Captain Hook, the Big Bad Wolf, and the Big Bad Wolf, I remember in particular, he had this terrifying long tongue and these sharp teeth. But then, Dragon, amidst the horror, you had the most adorable character that I've ever seen, and I swear to God, I would stand in like a 5-hour long line to get a photo with this thing. Donald Duck wearing a sheet ghost. And Dragon, just to wrap it around for positivity, for getting the Hipster Donald stuff, that Donald Duck with a sheet ghost was pretty much my first exposure to Donald Duck. All right.
Yeah.
And of course, later on, obviously later on, I found the cartoons and, House of Mouse and Kingdom Hearts was a big one. I'm sorry, Dragon, I need to plant this one other flag. I know I'm going a little long-winded on it, but Donald is kind of a big character. This is like my cap, Dragon, all right? So you have to forgive me here. Back when I was 14 years old, so this would have been about 2004, they released the Walt Disney Treasures Wave 4. Now, that had on it, Dragon, a very important DVD that really shaped my Disney fandom. Really kind of, I credit this for transitioning me from a Disney fan to someone who kind of fancies himself a Disney historian, an expert at Disney. And that was the On the Front Lines DVD, and that had all the propaganda films. It had Victory Through Air Power. It had all the Donald Duck joining the military stuff. And as cool as all the other stuff was from kind of like a gimmicky point of view, like, kind of just seemed like, wow, Disney actually did propaganda back then. That's interesting and dark. The Donald Duck stuff was always the stuff that stayed with me from that DVD. And I very much remember being just simply fascinated by the idea of this character who's so beloved going off to serve in the military and kind of having that as part of his background, as part of his history, and really the company very much honoring that legacy. And I've said time and time again on the podcast, that's one of the reasons I really dig Donald as a character, is he is pretty much the only Disney character who's like a what's the term, Dragon? He's medaled.
A war veteran?
Yeah, he's a war veteran. Yeah, I'm sorry. I think he's like, anyways, I'm sorry. He's a war veteran. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm complicating it, but yeah, it's I really kind of credit Donald a lot. I give Donald a lot of credit for that transition from me just being a Disney fan who really loved Disneyland to really viewing the company as something much more interesting and much more historically fascinating. All right, long-winded tangent over, Dragon. Handed it over to you.
Okay, so mine's a lot simpler than that. So speaking of VHS tape introduction to Donald Duck, I had kind of a twofold. I had two things really introduced me to Donald Duck. Both VHS tapes, kind of, of course, just in a long line of like those old iconic Disney VHS tapes. Of course, some more prized than others. Like, of course, like Toy Story being like a mecca of like, oh my goodness, Toy Story, and then beyond that, you have like the Muppet movie, all the
Do you
greats.
remember the Masterpiece Collection?
I probably do, but I
They
haven't
were
seen
the
them.
white clamshells.
Oh, the white ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Anyway,
definitely. Anyway, point being, there were two that really stuck out to me. One, I can't recall which VHS tape it was on, but it was the basically there was a Mickey Mouse short on it, and the short, I believe this was the first introduction, but I can't swear which one of these two came first. So basically, there was Mickey Mouse short, the band concert.
hmm
That might have been my first introduction to Donald Duck. For those who don't remember, that's Mickey Mouse, basically conducting the band, and you had Donald Duck
yeah, that
playing
would
this.
just be called the band concert. Yeah,
Donald Duck was playing the flute, and the idea is like he just had this odd
I
infinitum
actually have a
flute.
pin of Donald Duck playing the flute.
And every time, basically, no, I guess no one, if I remember correctly, everyone just like hated him playing the flute, and they didn't want him to play the flute. He was just again very ego driven. He just wanted to play the darn flute, and every time they had this great gag where basically it keeps getting like broken or like thrown out, and they basically just keeps finding a new one, another one, another one. It's like an endless handkerchief effect with the flutes. It's quite hilarious. And the other thing, of course, the more iconic thing that always kind of stick in my mind with Donald Duck is Fun and Fancy Free. The Mickey and the Beanstalk, short from
It
Fun and
features the
Fancy Free.
most terrifying Donald Duck moment of all time.
Precisely, and I have things to say. We're going to get to that, folks, and I have things to say about that moment. But seriously, it's like that. That always when I think Donald Duck, I'm always thinking of him in part like as kind of a three-person ensemble with Mickey, Donald, and Goofy. Those shorts, there's an iconography to it. Just seeing like these three personalities just kind of they balancing each other out, and it's
And then in
it's
the early 2000s, the stupid RPG kids stole Mickey's thunder and they never looked back. And we'll get into that too.
Sure. Now let me highlight a few things in the comments here. Let me get some shout outs and vice versa here. Nerd Thanos fan has joined us in the comments. Welcome. He's saying happy birthday, Donald. Also saying I'm sorry, Nerd Thanos. I'm not sure quite how to interpret this. Maybe Tiki will recognize it. Breaking new Looney Tunes cartoon clip was released. It brought me to tears. I think it's an unrelated.
Well, yeah, I do know that the new Looney Tunes premiered it somewhere. I forget where. So basically, I know that full shorts had been premiered but not released online. So I guess my guess is that Warner Brothers released a clip from one of those shorts. So
Anyway.
I'm excited to see that for sure. We've been Sandy, Jacob, and I on that side of the podcast have definitely been tracking that very closely. Not to say that it hasn't, but we've been keeping a particular eye on that project.
Anyway, so Pink Pearl Apple, sorry, darn it, I'm sorry, Pink Pearl. It's been a while. Pink Pearl Disney Wishes. Her first Donald Duck introduction was Mathemagic Land.
Oh God, that's a good one. Oh my God. Oh, Pink Pearl, you just brought me back. You just brought me back. Oh man, that's such a good one.
And beyond that, you have things like it sounds like Then Wonderful World of Color, basically by Ludwig and so on and so forth. The Disney Afternoon stuff, and then the Three Caballeros, and also a little bit of mention of House of Mouse and Pink Pearl commands. Disney, redo House of Mouse. Do it again, reboot it, and we'll talk about House of Mouse later on. I got a lot of this. Point is, like, if there were a third thing, I think the most frequent exposure I had to Donald Duck was House of Mouse. We'll get to that most definitely once we get there. I'm talking like the first, like, kind of in terms of your bat crashing through the glass moment with Donald Duck, or your Chaplin finding the hat. It's probably the two that I've cited. And also, Nerd Thanos fan asks, am I the only one who watched Quack Pack?
Yes.
Sorry to tell you, Nerd Thanos fan. Looks like you might be. I don't know, maybe, but not.
Look, maybe one day I'll give it. Look, I love Rocket Power, so maybe one day I'll give it a watch, and I'm like, oh yeah, this exactly tickles my Rocket Power itch for like extreme bro '90s nostalgia. So maybe one day I'll give it a look.
Was Quack Pack the thing with Huey, Dewey, and Louie? Is that what I'm thinking of? Is that the same thing?
Yes. The cool teen versions of Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Right, and also Pink Pearl says, "Nah, I watched Quack Pack. I'm probably the only one of the only people who still kind of liked it." So, well, that's good to hear. Anyway, okay, so let's move on to again. Let's kind of start at the beginnings here. Again, basically, going to give you kind of a greatest hits kind of overview of Donald Duck's career here, folks, just to kind of celebrate 85 years, see kind of the humble beginnings to where we're at now with the characters. So let's start with the grand beginnings of it all here. So let's talk origin. It's origin time, kids.
So enter Ducky Clarence Nash. Or I believe the proper terminology is Clarence Ducky Nash.
Yeah, because I mean like Ducky.
All right, Clarence Ducky Nash. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, just tell us the story.
Clarence Ducky Nash. All right, so you could probably tell it better than I can, Dragon, but basically one day Walt was walking down the studio, and he was an animator or something, right? I'm kind of sketchy on the actual details here.
All right, look, here's what I know. You can fill in the blanks here,
right?
Okay? I'm sure you're going to have the details to fill in the blanks. Same goes for Pink Pearl, if she also feels there are some details left out of the story here. So, because Pink Pearl actually watched some stuff about Clarence, that little Clarence Nash, so she might actually know some stuff that we don't know. Anyway. Point being, as far as I know, the origin goes, there was like this rumored story. I don't know how official it is, but I'd like to think it's official. That there was a cricket headline about this Donald Bradman. Basically, there's this cricket player in, I believe, Australia. There's a cricket player who basically he got like there's this thing in cricket called a duck. It's like a shorthand, like some sort of shot in cricket. And the point being, there was a headline that says, Donald Duck or Donald Ducks. He gets the point, the duck point then. And that kind of, again, that inspired just kind of the creation of the character, and the idea is that Walt wanted a friend for Mickey, because at this point Mickey was kind of reaching that iconic status, and Mickey was kind of getting away from kind of the mischievous character. He needed I need someone to be a little bit more like someone we can have a little bit more fun with. Someone can be like a little bit more skew, a little bit more to the negative. Someone who can be a little bit more temperamental, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of where he gets kind of the need for a Donald Duck. So that's kind of where the character's formulating. And now, who the heck do you get to voice this character? He's walking on by, and I think you want to take the baton at this point, Tiki.
Yeah, he's walking by, and he hears
Clarence Nash.
I know he hears Clarence Nash. I just forget exactly what Clarence Nash is doing. Like, is he doing just vocal warm-ups, or is he just talking about... Folks, I'm terribly sorry. I should have brushed up on the story before.
Okay, as far as I'm aware, that Clarence Nash, he was doing animal voices, whether it was for short or not.
I don't say anything definitively, because I worked at the Walt Disney Family Museum, and one of the rules is that if you don't know, don't state it as a fact, so...
Well, the point being, Clarence Nash, he was for something else. He was doing basically using the Donald Duck voice, and he was singing. And from what I understand, he was actually doing like a goat voice for "Mary Had a Little Lamb." Get it, goat.
That's right, Mary Had.
And then Walt heard that, and he says, "I think it sounds like a duck." And basically, it was it's just pretty much kind of like
when an iconic character was born. And I kind of described the Clarence Nash school of voice acting as almost like Andy Kaufman levels of anti-voice acting, if you will, in a good way, in the best way possible, where it's almost kind of like, how grating can you get it, but still get it, both to the point where you can understand it technically, and also to the point where it doesn't become annoying. It's a fine line, Dragon, but I feel like Nash just nailed it every single time.
Right, okay, we have some comment action here. Jacob's in the comments.
Oh, Jacob, you can come on if he wants.
Okay, we'll see if we get any traction there.
Okay.
Anyway, okay.
I totally forgot to ask him about this.
Anyway, we'll see if we get a special appearance here, folks. But the point being, okay, anyway, so, Jacob says, Tony Anselmo, if I'm saying that right. Tony Anselmo was the animator you were thinking of. He's the animator on that, I believe, the Silly Symphonies, if I'm correct. Anyway, so he says Nash was a voice actor in his basically goat impression. I'm just going through there. Also, Nerd Thanos fan, his first introduction to Donald Duck was Fantasia 2000. Repeat.
We'll definitely get to that, Nerd Thanos fan.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Getting some praise.
Well, I got the link ready for Jacob if he wants to jump in. I actually feel really bad that I kind of accidentally snubbed him unintentionally on this.
Well, it's not a lot. It's not like a big kind of milestone with special guests and appearances and stuff. So we'll see what happens. Worst case, we'll shout him out a couple times. It's fine. All right. So I guess so. Basically, that's kind of the origins of Donald Duck. So let's talk about the. Let's talk about Donald Duck's first foray into animation. Let's talk about Wise Little Hen.
Oh man.
Let's talk about
This is such a weird, like, obscure intro, Dragon. It's such a weird footnote.
It is. I mean, yeah, everyone's got to start. Sometimes you have
I've got a bellyache.
so everyone, folks in Hollywood, everyone's got to start somewhere, even it's from the low of lows, or it's like a grip, or like, hey kid, can you act? No. Can you say lines? I guess you're hired. You got to start somewhere, and this was Donald's. Okay, read this line, kid. I've got a bellyache. Okay, can you make it a little bit more like I've got a bellyache? Okay, that'll work. And a little sorry, folks, a little peek behind the curtain to Disney. They're not kidding, but no, in all seriousness, so this is it's an obscure appearance for Donald Duck, but I kind of noted something when watching it. I'd never seen this before until looking at it for this. So again, as you probably guessed, like the most old school I've kind of seen Donald Duck is probably the band concert. Then again, that was him sporting somewhat of the old design, because you have like the age old design here, and then you have like kind of a slightly modified version of it. I'm sure you see this all the time, folks. You have people making kind of like the evolutionary chart of character designs and character looks, so on and so forth. And with the wise little hen, essentially he's a duck who. What we started with Donald Duck is he's a duck who lives on a houseboat, right?
Mhm.
The duck who lives on a houseboat. He's got a sailor gimmick, and I have a theory here. I have like a Steve Martin-esque theory from the Muppet movie. I
Oh god.
I feel I wonder. I think Donald. I could be completely crazy here, so forgive me. I'm just going to throw it out there, see where the ball lands. I'm going to theorize Donald has no pants for a joke, for the joke in this short. I think Donald doesn't have any pants because the whole butt kicking joke at the end of this thing, where basically they're kicking themselves for basically they have cheated themselves out of a meal that the hen has provided, because the hen is giving them an opportunity to help out or to work or something, and then basically this is I've got a bellyache, he and this pig character. And basically, they've kind of cheated themselves out of this full course meal while they get casserole because they can't have a fine meal because they've had a bellyache. They've been bellyaching the whole the whole short, and they're kicking themselves. And I think the animation, the way that reflects, is is the fact that would best be served if the character was not wearing pants. I guess. So, how crazy? Scale 1 to 10. How crazy?
No, it sounds plausible. It sounds plausible. I mean, it is one of those things. It's like we see it in music biopics all the time, right? It's like, hey, kid, come here. You've got a good sound. You know what I mean? It's basically like that. It's the tryout. It's the first role. It's basically to pull a Barry here, Dragon. It's the hey, you shit bird. You want a little pie?
God.
All right, so we got special guest Jacob here. Jacob, I feel so bad, man. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine.
Dragon, do you want to copy and paste the format again for him? I'm sorry.
Why not? I need the exercise.
Sorry, I guess I didn't mean to impose.
Oh
No,
no.
Jacob, you're not imposing. I'm literally just like I was like shit. Like Jacob co-hosts DuckTales with me. How could I forget to include him? Basically, folks, we were doing a lot of Spielberg month planning yesterday, and this kind of fell by the wayside, unfortunately. But you're here now, Jacob. Do you have time to talk through this, Jacob?
Yes.
Cool.
Oh, lovely,
right.
lovely semantics.
I'm sorry, Dragon. I just think I just for me it wouldn't feel right without him. So, Jacob, really quick, what was your first introduction to Donald Duck?
Again, I mean, probably like in the standard, like probably just watching like reruns of cartoons on Toon Disney and stuff like that. Probably like through the original DuckTales and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, it's been so long I can't even remember. I mean, my first extensive interaction, I mean, probably like not until like mid 2000s when I first got into that kind of stuff.
Of course, Kingdom Hearts probably was a big factor.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I was well aware of him by that point.
Okay. All right. So, Dragon, let's Wise Little Hen, or do we have anything more to say about that, other than just kind of like the meta narrative of how that recording session went down?
Yeah, that and the Pink Pearl kind of gives some credence to the no pants theory here, saying I love that call out in the House of Mouse. Old MacDonald had no pants, so again, a little connective tissue there. Just
Well, Mouseworks and House of Mouse is all full of all kinds of classic references that you'd only understand if you watched the old stuff.
All right, and also Pink Pearl had seen this short in pre-K way back in the day. So, fine world. All right, so I mean, yeah, I think we've covered the bases. We've introduced Donald. He kind of dips a toe in the water of the grand Disney ocean. So let's move on.
Technically, I just remember another early Math Magic Land.
That's Pink Pearl's earliest memory too. And Math Magic Land is freaking fantastic. We should cover that in detail sooner rather than later. I love the hell out of that thing.
That's one of my earliest things that just exclusively Donald.
Paul Frees, man, it's Donald and Paul Frees. Paul Frees is the second starring role in that special.
The other Mr. Freeze. Right away, Mr. Freeze.
To me, I honestly view Paul Frees's role in Math Magic Land as like the sequel to Adventures Through Inner Space. Math Magic Land, magnification. Anyways,
I wonder if they did. I wonder if they did that today, they'd get Corey Burton.
oh yeah, I'd love a remake of Math Magic Land, and DuckTales promised it but didn't deliver. But let's not get into that.
And Corey Burton's a blessing upon this land. So
he is.
Move on to let's talk about kind of our ensemble. Let's assemble the ensemble, if I may, because you brought up Captain America earlier. If I may. Ensemble, assemble. Okay, sorry. Let's talk about the. Okay, silliness aside, in all seriousness, let's talk about kind of like the big trio itself. So Mickey, Donald, and Goofy. Let's talk about these three knuckleheads.
Yeah, so of course Goofy, we'll do a deep dive on him in an anniversary at some point. He's got a fascinating history in his own right.
Oh, yeah.
But he was kind of like, if Donald was sort of like meant to be the everyman comedy relief, Goofy was meant to be kind of like the Roger Rabbit style, just wacko, like you can do whatever the hell you want with him kind of character. And so I feel like those three dynamics, kind of like the more real comedy, the more out there zany Looney Tunes type of comedy, and then Mickey kind of grounding it all as the everyman. I feel like that's how the dynamic really works.
I mean, they say great things come in threes.
How true. Yeah, it's this obviously we have a famous trio here. They're I think what we've done with the trio here is that they've unlocked kind of the perfect. What they did with this is they unlocked the perfect kind of diverse group. They complement each other's sensibilities. We have like Mickey's the icon, right? Mickey's kind of your icon, kind of the stability amongst the group. Donald is your everyman. He's the he's the everyman. He's the he's kind of the glutton for punishment of the group. It's like Donald tries to do something and he fails miserably, and we laugh at his misfortune, but we love him. And you have Goofy.
Yeah, and let's not forget there's actually a time when Donald was actually more popular than Mickey.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That is true. I mean, folks.
I would wager to say right now he's more popular than Mickey.
I think technically he's always been more popular. I mean, like he's always been a mainstay in comics. I mean, I've an interesting tidbit I heard. This is kind of jumping ahead of it, but outside of this, even like he's like the highest published comic book character outside the superhero genre, basically being the fifth most published character in the world.
Trippy. That is quite remarkable.
Yes. So in a way, he's pretty much always been popular.
Anyway, so the third spoke in the wheel with Goofy here, where basically he's kind of the I felt Goofy to an extent. I think the reason Goofy and Donald get along so well, I think the reason they kind of couple each other so well, is that Goofy. And I can be crazy here, and again, we'll do a deep dive on Goofy one of these days once Goofy hits his own milestone. Is that Goofy? I feel is kind of a sillier equivalent to Donald. I think they
exactly.
come down to. Is that thing? Goofy is also Goofy's more I always go to the instructional video comedy with Goofy because I mean that's the thing kind of made his career. That was his big break to an extent. And that's the thing. So Goofy again, he's also a glutton for punishment. But he's kind of the hapless glutton for punishment. He isn't quite like he's not getting angry at the situation, but like again he'll get invested in the situation. So again, that's kind of the difference. The point being, these three personalities very much kind of complement each other so well. Of course, we get to some of the iconic shorts and some of the iconic pairings. One of which we're not going to spend a lot of time with. The one that always hit me hit me in the sweet spot was the Phantom Blot. Well, I love all the Phantom Blot stuff, especially because I was first exposed to this during House of Mouse, and I just can't get enough of the Phantom Blot when they had like John O'Hurley playing them, and of course now Phantom Blot I believe is like a staple of Epic Mickey, but way back when John O'Hurley just being the Phantom Blot and taking the three characters, kind of stop the Phantom Blot from whatever he was planning. Just it's a lot of fun. Okay, let's have some of the more iconic, more kind of like long-standing kind of marks within the history of the alliance of these three, the holy trinity of the Fab Five.
Yeah, so clock cleaners.
Yes, clock cleaners. So basically, I'm sorry, Jacob. Would you like to start us off?
No, I was just laughing, basically.
Right. So this is kind of like I think the standard plot for these guys. Clock cleaners really unlocks is they have a small business between our three characters. That's usually the starting place. They're in a small business of some kind, and they're co-workers of some variety. It's usually that's kind of the standard. Where they're all cleaning the clocks and just going about their business. Donald runs into an issue where and Mickey's just trying to keep the ship afloat to an extent.
One of the things about this one is the sense of scale, the sense of height that we get from it.
One thing. This is almost kind of related, but I remember watching a documentary on like sound design in cartoons, and they're talking about how I think it was the juice harp or whatever, and like how it was used to create the clock springs. And the scene they showed was Donald hammering on the clock.
Oh yeah, and actually, a little fun fact. I could be wrong here. I'd love to think this was the same. I'd love to think it's connected. But if you remember the opening of Waking Sleeping Beauty, the documentary, you'll remember Don Hahn, who directed that, and he was the narrator, and of course, is producer extraordinaire at the Disney films. He was playing the Jew harp on he's playing the harp on the in the opening. He says, "That's me with the harp." And I'd like to think that they got a lot of those instruments, basically probably during a Christmas party or something. They're basically playing outside of the Disney Animation Building. Presumably, that's quite possibly the very same harp that they used for the sound design.
Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that clock cleaners served as the inspiration for. Remember when So You Want to Be an Imagineer was a game? I need to bring that back someday. It's been dormant.
He's going to bring it back someday.
But So You Want to Be an Imagineer used to be an armchair Imagineering competition. It's not like officially canceled yet. I just haven't done anything with it. I need inspiration to strike for me to really get invested in it again. But one of my favorite projects ever was that the contestants had to create a whole mirror Disneyland where basically it had the same layout, but everything about it had to be different. So there had to be an icon at the center of the park, but it couldn't be a castle. And what the team decided on was a clock tower. And inside this clock tower, in the middle of the park, was the icon of the whole park that you could see from all around, was the clock cleaners ride. And the clock cleaners ride was basically a, kind of like a wild mouse spinning coaster, if you will, where you sort of go up an elevator lift into the gears of the clock. There's some kind of like hairpin turns, like up and around the clock. You're about 200 feet in the air. So it's kind of got this effect that's a little bit similar to the Stratosphere in Las Vegas, where it's sort of mild coaster, but you're so high up that it's more intimidating than it would be on the ground. And it's all timed to music. It's all timed to, to the gears of the clocks turning. And I just loved it. It's just one of those, So You Want to Be an Imagineer projects that really sticks with me. It's like I've always wanted to see what Disney would do with a quote unquote castle park that didn't have a castle as an icon. And I think that would be a great centerpiece.
What's that about Lonesome Ghost?
Yeah, this one's a classic, man. This one is a staple of all those holiday Halloween retrospectives.
The original Ghostbusters. Yeah, the original Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Now, I might be mistaken. Did they actually cite this as like an inspiration or anything, or I might be wrong?
I wouldn't put a lot of stock in that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I might be mistaking it for something else, but there's definitely a lot of similarities. I mean, obviously more low tech, but still.
There was no ape in the Bill Murray Ghostbusters. You know, there's no truth to this art.
All right.
So this is just a great bit of character expressions in this one. You really sense the fear on the trio as they go through this haunted house. It's very atmospheric. You know, I definitely remember that those old school Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck cartoons that would go into creepy territory would be genuinely creepy. Like we have stuff like the Mad Doctor. You guys remember the one where Pluto was sent to hell?
Oh yeah, Judgment Day.
Yeah, Pluto's Judgment Day. We should cover that on that. That's another one that would be a haunted holiday hijinks. You know,
we can basically lump them all together and do classic Disney shorts.
Mm.
Like terrifying classic Disney shorts.
But seriously, the one with Pluto and hell might be one of the worst. But Lonesome Ghost, I feel, was like right on the edge where it had a creepy atmosphere. Honestly, Lonesome Ghost, I can definitely say like it didn't necessarily serve as the inspiration for Ghostbusters, but I can very much say that it served as the inspiration, at least in the very early days, for the, you know, at least how they would establish the mood and atmosphere of the Haunted Mansion. And as a matter of fact, the Lonesome Ghosts were actually going to appear in the Haunted Mansion in early drafts.
It's kind of weird that they dropped it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's for the better that they dropped it. There was a lot of concepts. Like, we could, there's a multi-part series of Haunted Mansion stuff we could do, trust me. But, you know, basically, there was the Headless Horseman. That was a concept as well. But, yeah, the Lonesome Ghost one I'm just trying to get at is it's just a Halloween standard. I think Trick or Treat might be my favorite of the Halloween Disney shorts, but I think Lonesome Ghost is definitely the most popular.
I think the biggest takeaway is that this unlocks Donald Duck's iconic status as kind of an ensemble character. Mm-hmm. As in, like, when you think of one, you think of, again, it's like the old Seinfeld trio at the end of the series, where they all had this like these like kind of almost like a pre-show prayer, like especially before the final episode, they all went together and they had this really dawning moment where from this point forward, whenever someone thinks of one of us, they think of all of us. Something kind of noble like that Jerry Seinfeld said to the rest of the cast, and I feel that's kind of apropos to these three, where again, when
you mess with Spider-Man, you mess with New York, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
Well, you could look at it that way too, but yes, yes. You have someone.
The only reason I did that was for, you know, kind of subtle laying the groundwork.
Yes, it's
sowing some seeds.
Anyway, but you see what I'm getting at, though, right? The fact that, you know, when you think of
absolutely,
you think of the trio with one of them, which kind of helps elevate Donald Duck to that iconic status. Again, as kind of it's being discussed in the comments a little bit here, that is, in many respects, has elevated Donald Duck beyond Mickey Mouse to a large extent. You know, it's served them well in the long run. So speaking of that long run, so again, we're going to take a little respite from, you know, good times and good friends and kind of amateur ghost busting. You know what? Because
Army's not army anymore. It's better than it's ever been before.
Sometimes, you know what happens, folks? War happens. You know?
Dragon, it's just like the first word of the episode 3 title crawl. War! Exclamation point.
What's it good for? Huh, okay.
Absolutely nothing.
We're not here to dance with Chris Tucker. We're here to talk about a, you know, call to action. Donald Duck enlisting in the army.
Oh man. All right. I already kind of said my piece about like how this was the transitioning moment for me from becoming a Disney fan to becoming like someone who sort of fancies himself a Disney historian, you know, an expert at Disney knowledge. Jacob, how do you feel about the Donald Duck enlistment stuff?
I've only seen a select few of these, like Vanishing Private, obviously DeFure's Face, among others. I mean, I can't say I've been seen exactly all of these. But I think obviously they're a product of their time. But I think they're actually some of them are actually still quite interesting to watch to this day, just to see like, the whole history behind it. I mean, the one I've seen the one I've seen the most extensively is The Fear's Face, which I think I've pretty much of all the wartime shorts, I think pretty much everybody's seen.
A lot of shock value, yeah.
I think that's pretty much
I
like
don't think a lot of people have actually. It's kind of like Song of the South. It's like the shorts equivalent of Song of the South. Like, not a ton of people have actually seen it, but most people know of it.
And unfortunately, people keep forgetting the ending of that short. I feel people just keep saying,
"Oh
"Look, Don."
boy, am I glad to be a citizen of the United States of America."
Which I mean, in the grand sense, that's the most important.
Got like a framed picture of the Statue of Liberty, folks. They don't spell it out any more clearly than that.
I just feel sometimes it's a shame that people will constantly pull that imagery. And it's like, oh man, but they're not getting the ending, and they're just using it as negative.
Dragon, you know what? My personal favorite bit of iconography from that thing doesn't even come from the actual short. It comes from the poster, which there was a framed poster at the Walt Disney Family Museum, and if there was anything at that museum that I wanted to take home with me, it was this. The framed poster was just Donald Duck throwing a tomato in Hitler's face.
Ha!
Like, that to me should be the image that short is cemented for.
and as Pink Pearl Apple pointed out, like also like this, like one of the other shorts was Spirit of 43, which one of the characters served as the inspiration for Scrooge McDuck.
Sure.
Yep.
And just speaking to the wartime stuff, I've kind of lightened up on my whole post-traumatic stress theory. I do think that once Donald Duck did get brought back from the war, they did start introducing characters like Chip and Dale and Huey, Dewey, and Louie to kind of like push his buttons. But I don't think any of that was intentional, like PTSD, like humor or anything like that. I've kind of softened my conspiracy theory on that. Dragons like breathes a heavy sigh of relief.
Anyway, so the thing that always baffles me about with the propaganda shorts, I'm all for them, but the thing that really always stuck out to me is, why is he not enlisting in the Navy? Why do we never do anything with Donald Duck in the Navy?
Because the Army is not the Army anymore. It's better than it's ever been before. When you listen to the song, Dragon?
But in all seriousness, I mean, yeah, I get what they're going for. The Army was the more relatable thing to join at that time. But by the same token, with the Navy... Still, I mean, I know that basically for what Donald Duck had to do in the shorts, it would have had to be the Army, not the Navy. It might not have been as much from the kind of...
Dragon, I think that's it. I think, like, they wanted the iconography. Like, one of the big things in the shorts was the Sarge, who, if you watch the shorts in order, folks, we did this back last Veterans Day. There is a little bit of an arc with Sarge and Donald kind of becoming buddies. It's not a lot. It's not like a big, like, oh my God, it's such a complex character arc with so many windy motivations, but it's there. It's nice.
Well, the fact of the matter is, it's kind of the Abbott and Costello thing, where it's like when they did Buck Privates, where basically the fact of the matter is there's more to mine from just kind of enlistment comedy than there is like the Navy, because the Navy, don't get me wrong, there are things to do, but it's less exciting, less this kind of comedy feel, where it's like, okay.
Was it already established by that time that he was, like, big on sailor stuff?
I mean, he was wearing a sailor thing from day one, so it's pretty much, yeah.
I mean, I guess that makes sense. I mean,
he lived on a houseboat, as we went through, with the Wise Little Hen, he was living on a houseboat, so it's... I don't know, anyway.
I mean, it was just a thought.
It's fair enough. Anyway, so I think the big takeaway before we move on here with Donald is that, of course, this speaks to the quality, I think, that is the ever-present thing about Donald Duck 85 years later, is that Donald Duck is kind of the avatar for us in these shorts for propaganda. Again, of all characters, you couldn't put Mickey through this because, again, it's war. We can't put Mickey Mouse in the war. It's heresy. We can't do that. It's like Kermit the Frog in Vietnam. It just doesn't mix. It's we can't. Again, we can't send Mickey to war, and Goofy may not represent us in the best of like. And Goofy's not a fighter in essence. In doing an instructional video, I'm not saying it's impossible. It just wouldn't quite.
Oh, they did Goofy instructional videos during the war.
That's the thing. I think I'm not saying again. It's not impossible. Again, in terms of like doing like a propaganda sort of thing. I mean, it's the point is Donald Duck you get a little bit more mileage with it. Importantly, again, like there's a frustration where again you're doing this to serve a greater cause.
The everyman dragon. That's what it boils down to. He like Mickey is kind of more of the. He's kind of got that unreachable status. You know what I mean? He's kind of the icon at this point. Whereas Donald, like characterization wise, Mickey is the everyman. But I feel like in the hearts of people, in terms of like the legacy he had at the time, Donald was the everyman.
Donald's the guy's gonna roll around.
It's basically like Mickey's the guy we want to be, but Donald's the guy we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Donald's the one who's gonna roll around in the dirt. You know, that's Donald.
Oh God.
And of course, let me ask you this, guys: do you think the propaganda shorts of Donald Duck? Do you think they were like a decent way to explain World War II to kids?
Well, I mean,
it was a good way to explain World War II to 14-year-old Tiki. So if you classify that as kid,
well, sure.
And technically, at the time, Disney wasn't solely marketed at kids; it was more like family stuff, and I guess it was a way to make it more palatable in a way.
All right. Okay, so I think we kind of covered anything else with the war. We kind of covered the Veterans Day thing, so I think we should probably just kind of talk about it.
I'm going to include a link to that Veterans Day podcast in the description after we're done here, because that's definitely further supplemental material if you want to hear us talk about Donald Duck's war career for like 2 hours.
And it was also around this time he became popular in comics.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak to that a little bit? Because I always thought that it was more Scrooge McDuck that was the big comics guy. So
I mean, technically,
you know more about it than I do.
I mean, I can't really call myself an expert on it, but it was definitely around this time where like Disney was obviously licensing his characters into publishing and stuff like that, and storyman Carl Barks was assigned to write these comics. Mm-hmm. He extensively worked in the studio as like a gag person and writer for these Donald Duck cartoons. So he was the right person for the character. So, I mean, and Scrooge McDuck eventually became like one of the main stars, but main stars were what Carl Barks was writing, but Donald was always there in the story as well. He arguably described as the co-star of a lot of these stories.
And that is a fascinating footnote to Donald's history, is the fact that he is technically a comic book star. I still can't get over that.
I mean, Mickey had his own run of comics, but Donald's was arguably much more popular. I mean, nobody ever talks about the Mickey comics. Everyone always talks about the Donald comics.
Well, except in the capacity of the Floyd Norman Mickey Mouse comics, those were good. But yes,
Floyd Gottfredson also.
I mean, sure, but good Floyds. I think that's good.
Yes.
Anyway. All right, so
I'm just saying, like it's basically Donald's popularity that kind of spawned Scrooge McDuck. I mean, that's an entirely separate podcast in itself. And there's like, if we ever doing like an anniversary of Scrooge, but yeah, Donald like a lot of time Ensemble. And what's funny, it also became exceedingly popular in other countries as well, where they had their own writers and drawers and stories and stuff like that. But like, they have their own stories where they created their own mythology and stories around Donald Duck.
And that sounds like the perfect transition to the Goodwill Tour. So let's talk about Donald Duck's kind of global impact. So,
hooray for accidental transitions.
Yes,
Tiki, why don't you take point on this one? Why don't you take the parallel?
Okay, yeah. So first of all, the one note I want to hit is Saludos Amigos was definitely like, honestly, that was more. It wasn't really anyone's movie per se, but it was more Goofy's movie than it was Donald's movie. He got more screen time in it. Granted, it was only 45 minutes total, so it really boiled down to the fact that his short was longer than Donald's short.
That movie. I mean, they can barely even be classified as a movie per se.
Saludos Amigos, I definitely think, is the Disney quote-unquote movie that is the most on the line of actually being a movie for sure. But the three, Dragon, help me out here.
Caballeros.
The Three Caballeros. That's a movie, my friend. That's a movie.
Oh yeah.
So of course, with the Goodwill Tour, I mean, that's a whole podcast we could get into with the historical ramifications of the Goodwill Tour.
But the big connect to make, though.
What?
The big connect to make, though, is that Walt Disney's going on the Goodwill Tour that kind of inspires and is paralleled through Donald Duck going on the Goodwill Tour.
I mean, yeah, sure, you're right. It does, like, yeah, Donald is essentially in the Three Caballeros. Donald is, he's celebrating his birthday, and he's kind of taking a reprise. I don't necessarily think the war is canon here, but
well, no, I'm just saying that it's like as Walt Disney's doing this, Donald Duck's also, again, after like there was wartime shorts, we're doing something where Donald Duck is exploring South America as Walt Disney did. So it's kind of an incidental parallel there, you know?
Sure.
I remember the commentary you and I did on this, Tiki.
Three Caballeros is just
Yeah.
it's just an insane movie. I mean, it's just it really is. I mean,
what's funny is that the first 3/4 of it are relatively straightforward as far as these things go. But like the last 20 minutes or so is just complete budget insanity.
And that's why I love it. That's why it's one of my favorite Disney movies.
I mean, there's really no other way to sugarcoat it. The last part of the movie is completely insane. I mean, we even had trouble describing what was going on.
Yeah, we
pretty much
did.
Pretty much Donald Duck lusting after beautiful women. I think that's pretty.
Yes, but with a psychedelic flair.
Well, that's true. I mean, the coolest thing about that, too, by the way, is the fact that it's an early projection trick, but it's still, I don't know why, it just still stands out so effective, where it's obviously the girl in front of the screen, but it looks good. Anyway, so I also want to call out that, of course, Pink Pearl is actually Brazilian, which Pink Pearl, as you can probably tell by the avatar that Pink Pearl likes to frequent many a time, is, of course, big fan of Saludos Amigos and Three Caballeros.
Pink Pearl is obviously a fan of Jose.
Yes, big fan of Jose. Says, Pato Donald, he is still very popular back home. Donald and Jose.
And of course, Jose did make his appearance in Saludos Amigos. We need to mark that.
That is true.
All right, and just generally speaking, I do like that Donald Duck kind of. He got sort of that multicultural exposure. Donald Duck is I'm not saying that Mickey is just doesn't want to hang out with ethnically diverse people, but Donald Duck is very, he fits right into that crowd.
And not to mention this also introduced Panchito.
Yes. Panchito Pistoles, right?
Yep. Yeah, Panchito Pistoles.
So here's the thing. So I think a bigger call with all of this stuff, especially with Three Caballeros, particularly, is that, again, we have, Donald Duck has kind of been an ensemble of a 3-tier system, but this is the first time, at least to my knowledge, Donald Duck is really kind of the anchor for a group, for a change. That's a big thing. This is
definitely, yeah, it's the first time that he's been an anchor for a feature film, for sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Something that even Mickey can't claim.
And he beat Roger Rabbit to the punch with kind of the live-action interaction.
He beat Mary Poppins to the punch, even.
Really? Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah,
definitely by a good decade or so.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, I was getting.
I mean, if we want to split hairs, I mean, the Alice comedies came out long before this.
Well, all right, well, fine. Now we're just cheapening things, but yes.
And if you want to really get technical, then there was a little cartoon series called Gertie Out of the Inkwell.
All right, we got it. Live action animation, it's a spectacular thing. I got it.
I mean, this is the first time it actually looked somewhat convincing, though.
Yeah.
Right, okay, first time in color. All right, we happy? We're good.
Oh, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't feel comfortable 100% saying that for sure.
Fine, potentially
You're
first
probably
time.
right, but again, if I was working at the Walt Disney Family Museum and someone asked me that question, I'd probably radio in someone.
All right, my conditioned friend. Let me point out something else. We don't have to get into semantics and legalese of making discerning claims like that. Let me say. So again, we have a duck meeting exotic birds with exotic personalities. So again, kind of the ornithology.
What's interesting is that it's kind of framed as an anthology, but really there is connective tissue that lays out the whole film. As batshit crazy as it is.
Pretty much.
I mean, a couple things are just. I mean, a couple pieces could just be basically just considered to be animated travel logs.
Yes, that's true. They do stop the story for sure, but I'm saying like from beginning to end, there is a loose connective tissue with the plot in terms of like Donald's opening the birthday gifts, and then one of the birthday gifts teleports them into Bahia, and then from there we go into Acid Trip Land.
Okay, maybe we should hit just kind of plant the little seed here because we were talking about this guy a little bit later too. But the Araquan bird, the
Disney's
Araquan.
answer to Woody Woodpecker.
Yes. How do you gentlemen feel about the Araquan bird?
I really love him, and I wish Disney did more with him. Honestly, I could see the argument for him being annoying. I could totally see the argument for him being a Woody Woodpecker ripoff. But I don't know. I find him charming. I find his like kind of sing-song speech pattern really endearing and catchy.
Pink Pearl also says, my sister says Jose slipped Donald something when he opened the book, but she was joking.
Oh, most definitely.
That explains the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, it really does.
It would.
The Drogos that's kicking in, Donald.
All right. So, I guess
A family picture.
Family pic. Okay, well, to be fair, the Three Caballeros might be the most family picture, sarcastically, out of all the family pictures.
Although, admitted, like I said, it's sometimes easier to explain Fantasia than this movie.
Oh no, it's very much easier. I'll take that challenge any day of the week. Fantasia is much easier. Deems Taylor basically lays out Fantasia right at the beginning. Like, close your eyes and imagine you're in a concert hall, and let the image of the music flow over you.
Yeah, like I said, it's easy. Like I said, Fantasia is easier to explain. I mean, I'm agreeing
Like
with
Three
that.
Caballeros, I'm just like, okay. And of course, I've laid out this antidote before, but when Donald Duck was chasing after the women at the end of Three Caballeros, as a little kid, I innocently just thought he was after a kiss.
Well, I mean, look, I want to just clip the wings of childhood innocence. I mean, by all means, that could still be the case. I mean, he's a duck. And
We all know what he wants.
I mean, look, it's not Howard the Duck. Let's not get filthy. Look, the point being, look, Donald, he's stupefied
It's all three of them. It's not just Donald. All three of them are horny bastards.
All right, fine. The point is, they're
Birds of a feather flock together.
They have a mild addiction to gorgeous women. Sue them. All right.
Oh God.
All right. So let's move on then. Let's talk about. So we kind of talked about feathers of fancy within the Goodwill tour. Let's talk about those feathers in film. We'll talk about Donald Duck. His cinematic. He's in the cinematic big leagues. So let's talk about going cinematic in a big way.
Woo.
Yeah, so we have Mickey and the Beanstalk. Of course, historically, that was the last time that Walt Disney voiced Mickey Mouse. Dragon, I'm going to let you take the lead on Donald Duck's insanely creepy moment here, because it is definitely the stuff of childhood trauma.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
Again, Fun and Fancy Free was probably for me. Like again, I didn't really have the. If I had it, I rarely.
I have never actually seen the interludes to Fun and Fancy Free. I have seen Mickey and the Beanstalk. I have seen Bongo. I own Mickey and the Beanstalk on VHS. Bongo I've only seen once or twice, but Mickey and the Beanstalk was a mainstay. That was in the Dragon. Let me know if you would.
Plus, Mickey and the Beanstalk was also on Netflix for a time.
Sure, but Dragon, do you remember the Disney Favorite Stories collection?
Yeah, I need a little bit more to go on.
That was the one where it wasn't in clamshells. It was in red VHS, and they had let's see. They had importantly, they had The Legend of Sleepy Hollow on there, and of course Mickey and the Beanstalk. You don't remember this lineup, Dragon?
Well, I remember the lineup, but I mean, you're talking about like individually they be released, like not all in one, obviously, right? So I mean, like just the classic.
No, I'm saying like, you don't remember the Favorite Stories brand.
I remember the brand, yes, because I have the Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah,
I have.
You know what I'm talking about, yeah.
So I know you're talking. Yes, I do. Anyway,
Okay.
so what I'm saying is that in regards to the sort of the package films that they would do, like Salute Amigos, like that, I didn't have that. If I had
saw all the package films with the exception of Caballeros, through the Favorite Stories collection, like broken up into chunks.
my point is like those escaped me. I didn't. If I had them, I rarely watched them. So the point being, that's Salute Me has always been something like I've never fully really got into. But the one I basically I kind of like the package film for me. I suppose if you can call it, because I mean it's pretty. I'm not crazy, right?
Do you remember that Brazil sequence from the Fantasia that never was, Dragon?
You mean the one that we did?
Yes.
Vaguely, yes.
That was from Saludos Amigos, and it's by far the best sequence in that movie.
Right. Anyway, sorry. What was that? Oh yeah, so of course, like Fun and Fancy Free. I mean, I'm not crazy, right? Package film, 100%, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a package film. It's Bongo, it's Mickey and the Beanstalk, and it's some creepy as shit Charlie McCarthy puppets.
Right. Now, here's the thing. I do remember clear as crystal how that one unfolded because Jiminy Cricket kind of swoops in at the start of it. He's the one kind of taking you through the stories, and you have Charlie McCarthy and the girl there. Right. If the girl was,
I remember seeing a version of that where Ludwig von Drake was telling the story.
He does. I've seen that too.
I remember that too. Yeah, yeah.
He's telling the Fun and Fancy Free. Sorry, he's telling the Mickey and the Beanstalk story. So that's the thing. So the point being, so out of all basically the package film for me was Fun and Fancy Free. And again, Mickey and the Beanstalk to me was the biggest highlight of the whole thing because it's like, oh my god, I recognize.
Well, yeah, because it's one of two shorts and it's much more iconic than Bongo, so it would be the big highlight.
Oh sure, I mean, but also again like the interlude stuff. Again, it's still memorable, but just not. Again, it's not really cinematic. Let's say. The point being, so Mickey and the Beanstalk, you have there's this really iconic, beautiful scene. I gotta tell you, looking back, and always again, it is quite traumatizing. I will not say it is. Where basically Donald, Mickey, and Goofy, that's kind of like again kind of our standard format of our beloved trio in yet another situation. Only it's not like a small business. In this case, we're telling an iconic story everybody and their mother knows with Jack and the Beanstalk. We're doing it with our trio, with our kind of our famed guys here. And of course, that story usually starts with desperation and hunger, but we've never quite seen it brought to life like this. And we do via Donald Duck. And it is quite horrifying. And here's the thing: looking back on it, even though it's always stuck with me, but looking back on it's like, I mean, this is one of Donald's finest performances. It's like an Oscar-worthy performance of desperation here. Seriously, if you really look at it, right. This is out of all the things of Donald Duck, this still might be like the Oscar-winning scene for him. This is like him going full Bogart, like Treasure of the Sierra Madre, Humphrey Bogart. Where Bogart would just go completely mad, or just like, or almost like maybe a vaguely Raymond Chandler-esque. I don't know. The point being, you have it's the bread scene. One, of course, you and I being definitely big junkies on food animation. We love food animation, time. And that's one of the earliest examples of food animation for me. This and Sleepy Hollow being just the bread so thin it had to be sliced and it would be translucent. Trying to basically then cutting up the bean.
That Sleepy Hollow is kind of the opposite. It's like this big decadent feast, and yet both of the examples are equally as memorable.
And Donald Duck just snapping, just going off the deep end of hunger. He's literally like breaking the plate and eating the plate, and just him snapping, then almost basically trying to go for the cow, the livestock that they have. And you forget.
Oh my god!
The beans. I want to kill the cow and eat. And again, this is quite traumatizing, quite intense. It's a riveting sequence. And again, I think to respect, this is where Donald Duck. Bear in mind, it had been a factor of the character. He would get antsy and he'd be bothered and everything. He'd be kind of like he'd be. And the humanity of Donald Duck. But this is the most we've seen the humanity push, and I still think to a large extent, of course, now we do it to comedic effect. This is the first time we've ever done it to true dramatic effect, and I think it's why this moment has always been kind of like a big call out. This is where we can go with Donald Duck. There's something really here, and so it's always stuck with me, this moment. And it's like
the music where he builds up when he grabs the axe, and then that terrifying glaze in his eyes, his feathers sticking out the top of his head, and that maniacal grin as he just runs after the cow.
Again, just the intense red lighting, just the whole thing. It's utter madness. We see a beloved Disney character.
and pretty much any other story that would be that exact same animation would kind of be played for comedy. But here, it's like, as you mentioned, it's pretty much played for horror.
Absolutely.
It's amazing, like the fine line between horror and comedy.
So speaking of okay, let's talk about some other kind of big interims in Donald Duck's kind of film legacy here. So let's talk about Fantasia 2000. We spoke of Fantasia a little bit earlier. Let's talk about the sequel.
Yeah, so this is definitely one of the more memorable things. I was about 10 years old when Fantasia 2000 came out. And honestly, I remember at the time being way more hyped about this this segment than really people are hyped about it now, because I remember, like, not only was it a really fun rendition of the Noah's Ark story, but it also had a really large scale to it. The wide shots of the Ark, all the shots of the Ark on the waves and the storm. Of course, the march of the animals. I mean, it's like there was some big stuff in this.
I remember. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and so I definitely remember this one sticking with me more so than I feel like it's stuck in the public consciousness. And of course, this is supposed to be Donald Duck's big on-screen. This is like basically supposed to be Donald Duck's version of Sorcerer's Apprentice. And in terms of legacy, it's just kind of not. But I honestly kind of think it should be. I don't know. Maybe if it had a better song, but I honestly feel like the march fits with the Noah's Ark thing. I mean, yeah, it does call to mind graduation, sure, but that's kind of what Fantasia's always been about, is subverting what you think a piece of music is going to be.
If I may, I would make the leap that again, this is Donald Duck with kind of an operatic scale applied to his usual antics, which again is kind of putting in a different class, but by the same token that we give Donald an important graduation level task. One could say he's graduating from the small leagues to the big leagues, hence the graduation music.
I like that. I never thought of it like that before, but yeah, that makes sense.
I remember watching the trailers on home video, and the two shots that always stuck out to me on some of these on the Fantasia 2000 trailer was obviously the whales at the end.
Yeah, it's always the freaking whales with the Fantasia 2000.
But I also do remember distinctly seeing a shot of Donald Duck in there.
Mm-hmm.
See, for me, again, I remember clear as day where I saw the Fantasia trailers. It was one of two things. It was either I'm pretty sure it was the Toy Story 2 VHS tape, but it also could have been Monsters Inc. It was one of the two. But
I think it was. I think the one I remember was Monsters.
It must have been Toy Story 2, Dragon, because Monsters Inc. came out in 2001.
Well, I know that, but it could have been out on video. Maybe.
Oh yeah, you're right. That's true.
Yeah, I think the one I remember was on Monsters Inc.
Smart Money says it was on Toy Story 2, but I think again it's possible.
It could have been both.
Right.
It could have been both.
I know that there was the California Adventure tease with a big wolf rock looking thing, but anyway.
Now, guys, let's not be noisy neighbors.
Anyway, one thing we have in the comments here about Fantasia 2000, which is really talked up earlier by a Nerd Thanos fan and so on and so forth. We have Fantasia still has according to Pink Pearl here, Fantasia still has one of the best fourth wall shout-outs with Donald and a real duck.
Yeah, where he's looking at, like, where a real duck walks by and he just looks very confused at the screen.
That is hysterical. Again, one of the funniest moments in the Fantasia thing, when you really think about it. Like, just, outside.
I love the moment in, we talked about this before when we broke down Fantasia 2000, but I love the moment in Pomp and Circumstance where we see the dragon and the griffin on the rock just kind of like chuckling at everyone like, oh, you idiots, you're just so foolish. And then, of course, they're going to die soon.
Yep, and it also says, it also shows Daisy being a supportive, emphasis on supportive girlfriend, which, Daisy many a time, well, she's usually the obstacle.
That very soon.
Sometimes she can be the obstacle of a plot, to say the least.
Mm.
Okay, so let's talk about something truly remarkable. I barely have ever seen, but I gotta tell you, seeing it kind of in full force here, it really is dazzling. Prince and the Pauper.
Yeah, this is one I definitely wouldn't mind doing a full beat by beat on at some point, because it's I believe it was in front of Oliver and Company, I want to say.
Are you serious? They put this in front of Oliver and Company? Man, it's like the Lou and Cars 3 effect,
Don't
man.
quote me on that, but since it's not classic era Walt, I don't care that much about, the semantics of.
Well, the point being, if that's the case, it would probably be like an effect of like, when Lou was in front of Cars 3, Lou was better than Cars 3.
Right.
I I know there. Are we going to discuss? Something that can remind the Christmas Carol.
Well, that one was just kind of like a footnote for Donald. I mean, and honestly, Prince and the Pauper, I don't really remember much from Donald in that one either.
Hey, he wasn't really that big in that one.
I played the valet. It's nice.
But regardless, Prince and the Pauper is definitely an underrated endeavor into the half-hour Mickey Mouse shorts.
There's emphasis on, again, like in the big leagues, with something that really kind of demonstrates that as well in terms of animation caliber. And he's there. It's it's a big short. He's there. He's the valet.
All right.
Also, Pink Pearl, I hear you. Okay, yes, she says Cars 3 was decent. It was, but Lou was fantastic, though. That's the point. Cars 3 was good. It was like the first time in a Pixar film. Man, Cars 3 was decent, but still, I mean, Lou was amazing. No, that's my point.
Did we skip over Roger Rabbit?
Kind of.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, let's of course let's hit the big kind of the real big crossover you never a million years thought you'd ever see, but Roger Rabbit delivered upon. Let's talk about dueling pianos. Let's talk about Duck versus Duck. That's right, folks. The very same Duck. We talked to Looney Tunes a little bit in the wee hours of this thing. Let's bring it on home. Let's talk about Donald Duck versus Daffy Duck. The Golden Ivories.
This is honestly one of my favorite sequences in any movie. It's just timed so well. It's got so much energy to it. Both of the characters are just so on point with their characterization.
And one of the earliest times that Donald was voiced by Tony Anselmo.
Yeah, that is true. That's true.
The animator, right?
Yep. Like trained by Clarence Nash himself.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, I just think everything about this scene is fantastic. I really do.
Something I noticed, I kind of forgot about in terms of who kind of gets the last laugh. Donald does get the last laugh. I mean, he strikes first in throwing Daffy into the piano, and Donald has the cannon at the end. So I'm not trying to play favorites here. I'm just saying. I mean, Donald stood his ground. I mean,
well, again, it's another thing where
to be fair, they both do go down at the same time.
They do.
Like Donald's cannon does as much damage to his own piano as it does Daffy's.
Fair point.
But it's kind of the same principle where during the skydiving sequence, Bugs Bunny gives Eddie the anvil and not Mickey Mouse.
Well, to be fair, Mickey did kind of point out, like, Bugs has one.
That's true.
And it was a tire, not an anvil.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Give him the spare. Yeah, it wouldn't be.
A spare. That's right. Spare.
Yeah, it wouldn't be quite that funny. Like, gives him an anvil. It's like, that's just kind of mean spirited. Like, give him a spare.
Whatever you say, Doc. Here's the spare.
I don't think you want it. That whole also, Pink Pearl brings up. Speaking of Roger, I have a little fun fact. Jose Carioca. He has a half a second cameo in the Acme scene at the very end. Basically, probably the most valued animation cell in the history of animation cells. Just that ending. If you really think about it, the biggest crossover shot in the history of film between two companies that is still never happened to this day again.
Speaking of things that'll never happen, as someone who just absolutely adores Disney-themed bars, my God, I want the Ink and Paint Club. I want audio animatronics of Daffy and Donald doing dually pianos, and I want a Betty Boop waitress. And I want a Jessica Rabbit serenading me, but I know it's never going to happen.
Well, I think we all want a Jessica Rabbit serenading us, but the beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the dueling piano scene is classic. That's definitely one of the standout scenes of that movie for sure.
That it is. Okay, so I guess moving right along then. Let guys, we've talked about kind of Donald Duck and there's kind of the going on as many adventures. But you know what? Sometimes your feet get tired. Sometimes you have to go on home. You know, sometimes when you go on home, you forge bonds, important bonds. One could say family. Let's talk about some Donald Duck and kind of the grand family, kind of the grand Donald Duck and the forging of family.
All right. Daisy sucks.
Well, oh, Matt, you kind of fired from the hip on that one, didn't you?
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't necessarily think it's an unpopular opinion.
Daisy is Daisy's not necessarily great, but I mean, I was going to focus on the positive. Daisy, here's that Daisy.
I think we did focus on the positive with her role in the Noah's Ark thing. I feel like that's like one of the few times where Daisy was actually supportive. I mean, that's the thing that sucks about Daisy is that you constantly feel like she feels like she's better than Donald. I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but it's like a Daisy Duck is like. She's easily among the most shallow Disney characters, like easily.
Well, maybe not shallow as Clarabelle Cow, but second most shallow, sure.
Ooh, I mean, honestly, I think Clarabelle Cow is smarter than her.
But she's a gossip, though. Literally, that's her job.
But Clarabelle Cow, like, the thing that appeals to me about Clarabelle Cow is that she kind of, like, strategically, like, you know, she plays the gossip game. You know, she's in everyone's ear. With Daisy, she's just a ditz, man. She's just kind of a valley girl. There's just nothing going on with her.
Well, I was going to equate it like this, but again, I'm kind of doubting this. I was going to say she's kind of the Veronica to Donald's Archie to an extent, where again she is somewhat of the valley girl.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you're not wrong. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Of course, on Riverdale, though, I do love.
Kind of has like the worst qualities of both Betty and Veronica.
Well, I mean, basically the way I was looking is like you have Donald as Archie with Veronica being Daisy. On the flip side, you have Mickey and Minnie as kind of the Betty and Archie in that regard.
Oh, God. Well, I would agree that Minnie is definitely the Betty in this situation.
That's essentially what I'm trying to make here. But regardless, like Daisy, what she has going for her, I think what they always try to go for. I think basically when Daisy is done right. So here's the thing: Daisy can be complicated. I think we can absolutely agree on that. Where basically, for the most part, you'll be hard pressed to find it when Daisy is not kind of playing into for the most part, what we see in House of Mouse and what we see in other things. Where Daisy,
House of Mouse is definitely the one where I got the most exposure to Daisy, and I did not like it.
Precisely. And that's the thing where Daisy, she's just many a time again, she's she's just more so she's the obstacle within the comedy. She's the obstacle that is always like Donald's trying to please Daisy, and many a time it's just kind of hard to please the woman in your life. And that's the thing, but they are kind of made for each other, and that's the aspect of which I kind of want to focus with Daisy. They are kind of made for each other, where she is the opposite of Donald. Just she's the calm and verbose member of the group, and they both have an ego. Only Donald's is a little bit more relatable as the everyman, where her ego is kind of stemmed from a sense of, again, where Donald is competing with Mickey, where Daisy's competing with Minnie Mouse, but just a little bit more competitive between. I think between Daisy and Minnie, it's a little bit more of like kind of that kind of spiteful, kind of smoldering hatred to it, rivalry. Rivalry being the more appropriate word here. Basically, so we're like humph. Like if you had to sum up Daisy with one word, it'd be humph.
Yeah, pretty much.
But again, on the whole, moments like Once Upon a Christmas, though, with Daisy, those are some nice moments there. Daisy, you can basically Daisy. I feel is like if they, a part of me wonders if they actually settled down, maybe Daisy would can maybe kind of get the ego out. I think it's more bachelorhood, I think, or bachelorettehood. I think it's kind of taking things out of that for. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure. All right. So let's talk about. I guess we'd be talking about the nephews then, right?
Yeah.
That's so Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
I mean, really, at the beginning, these three were just very, very, very interchangeable, I mean, it's like, I believe for the first few shorts they were in, they didn't even have different colored hats.
Hey, I think that they only introduced that later on. I mean, there might have even been a comics invention for all I know, because even in the earliest comics, I think they were all drawn with the same color.
Right. So in terms of characterization, there's not a ton to get to until we get to DuckTales. And even then, there's not really much there until we get to 2017 DuckTales.
Allow me to make this point, this observation with Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and I could be completely out of my mind here. I could be like three caballeros out of my mind here. So, I wonder if Huey, Dewey, Louie and their inception was perhaps a loophole for the old kind of the thing in cartoons, where I mean, short of the Flintstones, the constant with cartoons and kind of ever-present iconic characters, is that we can't. It's so rare that you'll see a character change, evolve, or getting married or have kids. And the fact that we need to have kids to frustrate Donald Duck, but we can't have them settle down. We can't have them have an irreversible kind of change that can't be because obviously if we want to have Donald Duck be separate after we have a big marriage thing, then obviously we can't have a divorced Disney character. It simply won't do. We can't get that complicated quite yet for the kiddies out there being the thinking way back when. And so again, the hesitancy to let the character change has resulted in basically let's do the Robins with Batman essentially. Let's give Donald Duck some Robins in the form of nephews. So again, that was kind of the loophole to give Donald Duck children to kind of bounce off with, to banter off with. That sound like any bit of plausible to you guys?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Of course, they frustrate their temperamental uncle. Again, it's kind of a built-in comedy formula. So I'm going to pose you the bigger question, gentlemen. Pre the 2017 DuckTales, but even let's say maybe in the original DuckTales, as a concept in general, do you feel it's jumping the shark to give Donald Duck three half-pint nephews?
It wasn't jumping the shark, but it was definitely the transitioning point into a different era.
I mean, they still have the classic Donald. It was just like just more characters for him to bounce off of.
Yeah.
Oh,
so no, I really don't think Donald, or frankly any of the Fab Five characters, have ever jumped the shark.
Pink Pearl makes an excellent point here. Donald figured out the Disney curse. Goofy found that out, as did Della. You marry, you lose a spouse, or they lose you. You have a kid to move the story, but something happens. Point being, if Donald Duck were to basically, if he were to tie a knot with Daisy, or if he were to have
when Daisy appears on DuckTales, we know doom is near.
Well, if there's ever if they ever tie the knot or something but the point is, if something definitive happens, then yes, that'll be the end of her. Something bad's gonna happen.
All right. So then Chippendale, I feel like Chippendale was definitely more kind of for the broad comedy, whereas Huey, Dewey, and Louie was more for the scenarios, if you know what I mean. Huey, Dewey, and Louie were brought in more as kind of just what can we do with, the concept of kids. And then Chip and Dale were...
Basically, it's how can we torment Donald?
Exactly. They were just little hellions.
So the bigger institution I think we should be addressing, guys, is this. So Donald Duck at this era in time, basically when we kind of reach kind of this is really after the war we start to get to this point, and basically after generally after the war and after kind of the after Saludos Amigos and Three Caballeros is where we kind of enter into this fray of we try to spice up Donald Duck after we've seen him kind of as a solo act. We've seen him just kind of with the trio of guys, but now Donald Duck has kind of a viable property who again has proven himself as a time tested. He's a comic character and vice versa. And what they're bringing to life in animation here, I feel is we're trying to in some ways formalize Donald Duck. We're trying to put him in. I wonder. I don't know if it's they're out of ideas. I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm trying to think of maybe what the mindset is here, because we're giving Donald Duck things, again, relatable things that we've seen, but also things that we've kind of seen in kind of other things where we give him a family in the form of who we do in Louie. So we give him the old kids cliche. We give him a girlfriend cliche, and we give him a Tom and Jerry shenanigans thing with Chip and Dale. And of course, the broader thing that I really want to hit here with all this is that Donald Duck, the thing that he has over Mickey and Spades, the biggest thing that Jacob's kind of hit upon with the comics and everything, kind of where we're at now at DuckTales, is that Donald Duck at this point in time, the reason I think we get all this is that we built the name, we really build the name at this point in time. Donald Duck has become an institution, and with all of this, Donald Duck we have the Donald Duck sect of
Basically-
Disney, or more accurately, kind of the universe of Ducks, the universe of Donald Duck really started. Because we get all the spin-off characters. We get your Scrooge McDucks, we get your Darkwings, we get all this spun from the Duck sect that Donald Duck has popularized and given birth to an entire cinematic universe. In other words, Donald Duck is Kevin Feige.
Basically, Donald needed his own set of characters now.
Pretty much.
It's almost kind of like a Bat family.
To an extent, yeah, you go the Bat Family Red, I mean, almost, the thing is, there's so many spin-off characters, too. Again, it's just, Donald Duck has built a brand, and built a brand that's just kind of ever-present,
ever-growing. Gyro was a long-term comic character. Of course, Ludwig von Drake.
Certainly. Scrooge.
Quack.
Launchpad, Scrooge.
I think Gyro was an invention of DuckTales, though.
Oh, was he? I thought he was a comics character. My bad.
You have Gizmo.
No, Gyro. I mean, I was thinking of Gizmo Duck, right? You're right. Gyro was.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, I was getting Gyro and Gizmo.
Yeah,
mixed up.
Gizmo Duck was DuckTales. Yeah.
Sorry, I got a bit mixed up on the names. They're both G's.
Certainly.
But
Magica Dispel. It's even got like a Thanos-style villain.
yeah, though she's more Scrooge villain than Donald villain.
Yes, but she was the main villain of Donald Duck Gone Quackers.
True.
The point being, Donald's got a whole family. A very fascinating family history, and again, it's spun off just God knows how many things. As I think Roy would agree.
We really should do a retrospective on Scrooge, or even just the whole Duck family.
Should we count the Mighty Ducks as part of the cinematic universe?
No.
I mean, personally, no, but I mean, trying to think objectively here. Well, I mean,
cinematic universe.
You just call them like the Guardians of the Galaxy from another universe kind of thing.
Yeah, fair point. All right.
yeah. Or again, we'll see. However,
like 4.
Depends how Far From Home goes. Maybe it'd be like kind of a multiverse thing. I don't know. The whole question if that's gonna be a lie or not. We'll see. Anyway.
And of course, Pepper Ann has to be Captain Marvel.
Oh, come on! Don't take Pepper Ann down.
Oh God.
Not nice. So let's talk. Let's again. I think we're kind of talking about some bigger things here. We kind of spoke a little bit to legacy. Let's take a deep dive into so Donald Duck again. He's making into the big leagues. He's kind of becoming a brand within himself, and that kind of elevates you to kind of legacy status. One could say the status of a Disney legend. So let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so definitely a couple things to hit on here with kind of just like the multimedia stuff. Dragon, go ahead and take the lead on House of Mouse.
Yeah, so I loved House of Mouse. House of Mouse was kind of built in kind of a fine repertoire of kind of the Disney stuff for me. I mean, House of Mouse is something I would watch. Basically, again, it would come on. It was going to come on a regular basis, and it was just kind of something I'd watch with a great regularity. And it was. And again, it was just this regular flow to me. I mean, my favorite part of House of Mouse was when they would play these clips that, again, I can't swear to you whether they like how recently they were made. Some of them were recent, some of them were deep pulls. Again, regardless, they were of really great quality. Again, speaking to Disney's quality, but also speaking to whatever. A lot of them felt like they were just kind of recently done in the inspiration of the old Disney shorts. So it felt like a really great kind of milestone. Like it felt like a great kind of like a regular, just kind of yeah.
I know a lot of them were brought in from MouseWorks.
That's yeah. They had like the little they had something that was akin to like a MouseWorks logo or something with some of them. So that makes sense. I'd buy. They have like the gear logo with them. So I buy that.
Yeah,
they're actually like barring the recent shorts, like the recent 3-minute shorts. They're pretty much the closest modern making of those cartoons have gotten to the classic shorts.
Absolutely. I mean, the point is like those were kind of my touchstones for like when I would think of like kind of like if you need something to epitomize some of these characters in a recent context, I would jump to those shorts. They always meant a great deal to me. And you have and of course beyond that, just the premise of it all is just kind of fun and just again ripe with crossovers. Again, we don't have quite like a Roger Rabbit level crossover. This is the closest thing we got to it though. Again, never would you ever see like all these Disney characters. One running a club that every other Disney character would have like a cameo or like a little guest spot in. And here's the great thing. Rarely would they not be able to get the original voices for it. Rarely.
They even got the original Alice for it.
Absolutely. So basically, yeah.
I don't know. That was actually one of my also earliest exposures to pretty much all of classic Disney in general. I mean, House of Mouse could probably be claimed as a lot of that for many people.
Yeah.
Like
something that would have made a really good themed bar experience. Come on, Disney, what are you doing?
And let's see. So Pink Pearl also.
I want to get drunk at Disney. What's so bad about that?
Well, technically you can. I mean, just not not anywhere else.
Yeah, what's bad about getting drunk? Oh, how shall I count the ways? All right, so.
I mean, technically you can get drunk at Disney if you want. I mean, they do sell drinks.
I did get 11 drinks deep in Epcot, all right? So I have been drunk at Disney.
I bet you wanted 12 drunkie. All right, so let's see.
Drunk at Disney sounds like a weird like travel log series.
I still to this day have no idea if I just randomly stole someone's spot at Illuminations at the last minute because the placement that I got for Illuminations was too good for how late I showed up.
I may read a few comments here real quick. So
Go ahead.
Pink Pearl calls out that the Mickey Mouse Works shorts were made for the House of Mouse. That's good to know. Yeah, that's a good confirmation there. So again, point is, I love the House of Mouse shorts that were made for the show, especially. But everything, of course, did some deep pulls as well.
I got to tell you guys, I definitely enjoyed the Mouseworks shorts, but every time I watched House of Mouse, I was like kind of like crossing my fingers for one of those old school classic logos.
And then they did show quite a few of those. I mean, that's actually where I first saw Lonesome Ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Me too. So, and of course, Pink Pearl spoke this earlier, and she kind of brings it up again. I absolutely agree. Well, I think it's something we should bring up here. That, House of Mouse needs to be rebooted. If they remade it, I would love it. I still like watching it, says Pink Pearl. And I mean, actually, Mouse of Mouse, I went back to a little to kind of get refreshed on this. And I got to tell you, I don't know. It still holds up. At the very least, again, may not be the highest art, but you know what? It's an old friend. It's an old friend. It's really cheery. It's really
It's basically that friend that you haven't seen in years, but when you see, it's like, "Hey, how you doing?"
I mean, honestly,
it's comfort.
It's a premise that I feel like really holds up.
Good premise.
I mean,
yeah.
It's timeless.
It's comfort Disney,
Yeah.
Many ways.
It's like it wasn't made to win awards. It's just made to be like, yeah, here's some cartoons. Just sit back and relax.
It educated our generation. I think that's worth something. I don't know. Maybe the next generation could use something like that, but of course now they probably have to do it digitally. We have all the new CG characters into the fray, perhaps. But then again, they could always take the Big Hero 6 approach and render them in 2D. I don't know.
Yep.
Not sure. All right, so let's see. So of course Donald Duck's role within the House of Mouse. Of course, the really ingenious premise was that it's the Fab Five and company. They would run the club, and of course you have all the kind of your other bigger, more again basically Disney is Hollywood. You would have all the Hollywood, your Hercules, your Aladdins, your Jafars, your genies, like the whole shebang. They would be in the club and they'd be hanging out. Peter Pan.
Or even the villains would come to hang out. Even Chernobog was there.
Yep, sometimes the villains would take over. Someone would say that'd make a dazzling Halloween special.
Nah, it wouldn't. It would make a Halloween special, but not a dazzling one.
All right. So Donald Duck. So the idea was, I look back on this. So Donald Duck was the co-owner. He was basically the deputy manager. He was the co-owner of the club. So basically, the idea is like he and Mickey owned.
Kind of getting all the star, all the star power behind it. Donald was the one who really had to stress out and actually make sure the place ran smoothly.
And now I'm gonna make a leap here. I'm just gonna make kind of an out there pull because this reminds me of something I really love with another kind of film where you have like I love a character who runs the place. I really do. Like I love Casino. I love De Niro running the casino. I just can't get enough. I really can't. He's just complaining about like there are too many. There's not an even distribution of blueberries in this muffin. When he's talking about the blueberry muffins, I can't get enough of it. It's wonderful, and it's a great
And of course, Donald's constant clashes with Pete.
Yes, absolutely, and it's the fact that Donald Duck again, he's the one who's putting the elbow grease into the club where Mickey is the showman. He's just insanely jealous of Mickey, and it's he has the ego at play, and again, it kind of speaks to again these two long-standing characters, and again, every time Donald would be in a position to kind of usurp the club, he just couldn't because it's his friend Mickey,
I mean,
Usually,
the show could easily be called like the Donald and Mickey show,
pretty much.
or the Mickey and Donald show. I mean, technically.
So to speak to something that Pink Pearl is, I'm sorry, Tiki, were you about to say something?
No, I'm good.
So the point being, something that Pink Pearl has kind of spoken to here with the Ari, the Arican bird. Sorry, mispronouncing it. The point being the
Eric
the Araquan bird. Yes, the Araquan bird.
That's the one.
Always, in bringing up the Araquan bird, there was an episode that features the Araquan bird, which Pink Pearl's going to throw from the mouth for us to talk about. There, so, Tika, did you get around to rewatching it, or?
I did. It was pretty fun. I love how he comes out disguised as Jafar.
Oh God, it's hysterical. So yeah, they really play with the Disney history with a lot of the episodes, and of course, just love this the premise of that one where Donald's like, "No, this guy's going to cause so much trouble. You gotta get rid of him."
It's like Mickey thinks that he's doing Donald a favor. Like basically Mickey thinks he's flying in a caballero, but no. This is the nightmare fan of the caballeros essentially. Like this is the roadie that got a little too close to the band and just refused to leave.
And just to cite a few more examples here without going through like the whole reservoir. I'm sure there are a whole bunch of Donald episodes. Again, I just refresh myself on a few here, folks. But I mean, like you can pretty much find these too, where you have like stuff like Donald like having usually what the House Mouse would do, like there'd be a character with like kind of you have a need that gets filled within the episode, or a fear or worry that will be dealt with within the episode. We kind of frame it or break it up with kind of the short set. Sometimes best case scenario will relate to what's going on there. Mickey will use it as a transitioning point, saying, "Oh, we have someone who has a problem here. Maybe this will help him find the solution." We play something, and maybe it will spark an idea, maybe it won't. But you'd have like Donald Duck. He has a desire to fly. Donald can't fly. And throughout the episode, he learns to fly. And we have eventually Peter Pan. We do a reprise of "You Can Fly, You Can Fly, You Can Fly." Delightful.
Which we would see later in glorious 3D.
True.
One of the ones I remember from that show is when like he teamed up with like Mortimer to defame Mickey.
Yep,
I can remember Mortimer on that show for sure.
Yes, and of course, Mortimer being a deep cut Disney reference to Mickey Mouse's original proposed name, Mortimer Mouse.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
Thank goodness they went with Mickey.
Thank God for Mrs. Disney shooting that one down. All right.
Yeah.
So let's see. So of course, with Mortimer too, like Donald Duck just kind of standing up for himself, and kind of like ousting Mortimer Mouse. It's kind of a good pull there. Point being, you had a lot of a lot of neat stories with House and Mouse. They're just kind of fun. You're really just kind of like it's again comfort Disney at its finest.
Just one more thing from that is like the Phantom Blood episode where they think he's dead. Everything. I want a lawyer.
My favorite thing from House of Mouse, period, if I ever had to pick one thing, Phantom Blot. Phantom Blot to me is just the coolest thing ever.
And then Don's like, everybody loves me. I never get mad.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, just he's chasing after Goofy, and Goofy just has his hands in his ears.
Just
that's
the blind ego on Donald Duck. Like, everyone loves me.
I never get mad.
just hysterical, truly. All right. So let's see. Let's move on. Let's look at some other touchstones of legacy with Donald Duck.
Kingdom Hearts.
Someone has a song in his heart.
I could do the whole thing.
All right.
You can't do the whole thing. Just because you can't do the whole thing doesn't mean you should.
All right. Someone give me a key sword so I can knock this fool out. Anyway. All right, okay. In all
I was
seriousness,
waiting for one of you guys to do that. Now we can move on. I was kind of testing your patience there.
Well, that was you can.
Trust me, I could do the whole thing.
I
that
got
was-
it. All right,
was-
so Kingdom Hearts. That will take the lead. Non-musically, take the lead.
Okay, I mean, Tiki, you probably got to starting Kingdom Hearts before I did, but
Oh yeah, because I played the first game right when it came out. It was the first thing I ever owned on the PS2. It was one of the first RPGs I really got into, and I love it. Of course, the franchise, I never followed up on any of the million spin-offs. I haven't played Kingdom Hearts 3 yet.
I did.
But 1 and 2 certainly stand up as amazing games. 1 for the really solid story and tight difficulty. 2 for the very finessed combat. And, basically what Kingdom Hearts achieved is essentially put you in that Mickey role, in that everyman role between Donald and Goofy. And you got to essentially go on this adventure with Donald and Goofy. And now there's one moment for me within the Kingdom Hearts saga that really stands above all the rest when it comes to Donald Duck and his role in the story. I mean, Donald Duck is.
I think I know what this is.
You might. He's basically like kind of supporting comic relief through most of it. But so Jacob, what do you think it is?
Basically, minor spoiler alert, but I think the moment I'm thinking of, at least, the one that stands out for me personally is when Sora sacrifices himself and Donald like basically realizes how much of a jerk he's been and like chases after him while like shouting his name.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's not what I was thinking, but that's a good one. Do you want to elaborate any more on that one, Jacob? Because Dragon hasn't seen it.
I mean, I'd have to basically explain the entire story to have people understand the context, and it would take forever. So not really.
All right.
In case anyone wasn't following along, I know Littleton. Basically, the most I know about Kingdom Hearts currently is Joshua Thomas very slowly fumbling his way through the game at this point. I'm just still on the edge of my seat. Come on, Josh, get through the game so get to the Toy Story section of it, man.
Right.
Do it now.
I mean, like I said, to make that scene make sense, I had to sit here for like an hour to explain the context.
No, you're right. You're right. You would.
All right, so big moment.
Okay, so big moment. Dragon, I'm curious, as someone who I was literally like, okay, if I had to sum up why Donald is awesome in these games in one moment and one moment alone, what would it be? And Dragon, what did I send you, my friend?
Well, first of all, you didn't send me anything, you lazy SOB. I had to find it myself. But no. It was the Kingdom Hearts. I'm assuming it was like a variation thing, depending on what you would do in the story to get a different outcome for this. Be my guess, because I found a couple of variations on it. The one I found, the one that you intimated was the death of a beloved character. No, folks, it wasn't Mickey. It's even more sad than that. It was the death of Goofy.
Yeah, so Dragon is someone who knows absolutely nothing about the lore of Kingdom Hearts. How did this hit you, my friend?
Well, Goofy. So again, basically, the idea is like Goofy was kind of hit, and he basically, I guess, hit a rock or something. Point is he was hit in a way that was fatal, and they all kind of took a moment there to try to wake up Goofy, and Donald's all just trying to like, okay, stop clowning around here. Then Donald realizes, oh, Goofy, he's getting really sad about it. And then we have this really great moment that stems from this where basically, now Mickey's pissed off. Now Mickey's going after whoever.
That's exactly what I wanted you to get, Dragon, that pissed off Mickey moment.
So, but even better, I love that I think I was hoping the reason you kind of selected this was that then we have, again, something we've seen with Donald Duck so many times. Donald gets angry and he just gets all fired up, and you're like, as he kind of revs up the engine of charging at somebody. And we do that, but we have it with a dramatic context, the death of Goofy. It's a big deal. We've kind of taken something we've seen commonplace, we've given a dramatic heft. Pretty cool.
The quote unquote death of Goofy.
Yes.
Yeah, just to be clear, Goofy, what, Jacob? Like literally one sequence later, it's like, oh, Goofy's fine.
One could say Goofy will live.
Goofy, yes. Goofy does definitely live.
It's like Oh, that hurt.
Yeah, he comes back with a mullet and everything. It's the whole thing, with the solar suit.
But that is like Dragon. I am so happy that you at least got some of the joy that Kingdom Hearts provides in sort of like a nutshell there, because that to me is one of the really fun things about the Kingdom Hearts series, that you can do all the trademark Disney stuff, but there is a dramatic heft to it, and that to me kind of like encapsulates Kingdom Hearts and what to me makes the series so so compelling.
I have my own thing with Kingdom Hearts. I mean, I've played almost all the games. I mean,
oh dear, that's a Dragon. Jacob, that's the thing. I started playing before you did, but you've definitely played more than I have.
so I actually managed to play 3. And
I got friends.
I mean, funnily enough, my personal history started when I was just watching Disney Channel just randomly one day, and I saw the trailer for this weird game called Kingdom Hearts 2. Like,
Yeah.
not under, I was like, okay, I like just saw all the flashes. I was like, I have to play this. I was like, not realizing when I started, like, what the hell's going on? And that's
Dragon,
something and the funny thing is, that's something people are still asking to this day.
Mhm.
all right, Dragon.
I got friends who play Kingdom Hearts, and they kind of brandish it and talk about it and everything. And of course, I've seen like at the Comic Cons, I've seen like these giant kind of like fan made keys that you can buy, like the key sword. I gotta tell you, the coolest thing I've seen is like
Keyblade.
yes,
Yeah, get it right, Normie.
When you say Normie, you know I'm thinking of something else when you say Normie. Point being, the Keyblade, I do love the I love the design of the Keyblade nicely, which is of course the gadget and the weaponry kind of nut
Well,
that I
Dragon,
am.
do you know that there's a different Keyblade for each world of each game, and it changes its look and gives you different abilities based on the keychain that you have?
I did not know that.
Yes.
I do want to point out the novelty of keychain.
The keychains are honestly, Jacob, did they keep the keychain concept in Kingdom Hearts 3?
I mean, you still get different Keyblades.
But they don't have the specific keychains.
You mean like where they like hand it to you and they like place it on there?
Yeah, yes.
As far as I remember, they don't exactly do that. I think
Oh man, I have such nostalgia for the that's the thing, Dragon.
I think they basically. I could be wrong. I mean, it's been a few months since I played it, but
like Genie gives you the 3 wishes keychain. Tarzan gives you the Jungle King Keyblade.
yeah, it's like as far as I know, you just in 3 you earn the Keyblade. Like you just it's just given to you. I mean, I think because Keyblades are like basically a lot more complex in this game because of all the stuff that happens with them.
Oh, I bet.
All right,
that's the thing. In Kingdom Hearts 1, it was like the one ring, right? It was like the one Keyblade to rule them all. And now the series is basically like, you get a Keyblade, you get a Keyblade, everybody gets a Keyblade.
All right. So, so 2 things. One, so I think the bigger thing with Donald, the bigger thing with Donald Duck in regards to Kingdom Hearts is that, again, he's completely compliments an ensemble yet again. Again, we're kind of paying tribute to what Donald Duck has kind of done when he really kind of made the mark in his Disney career way back with the formation with Donald and Donald, Goofy, and Mickey, and also Pink Pearl. Pink Pearl says in regards to Kingdom Hearts, before we move on to another legacy component, Disney add Panchicho and Jose in the game. In this game, add a warrior and a wizard class as quest characters. They need to help in a world. Sorry, as characters they need to help in a world.
Okay, I'm only half joking when I say this. Like, I would love insane acid trip Fantasyland from Three Caballeros as a world in Kingdom Hearts. I mean, of course they wouldn't call it insane acid trip Fantasyland, but
All right. So I guess we should talk about Philhar Magic.
Philhar Magic, Mickey's Philhar Magic, starring Donald Duck.
Yes.
Good old fashioned duck butt AA.
God.
All All right, so Philhar Magic to me it's a tiny bit of a mixed bag. I've only seen it once. I need to see it more. I kind of regrettably did not see it the last time I was at Disney World. To me, like, I liked it more than I thought I would, because I typically don't like the whole, like, greatest hits kind of like, and that's what Philhar Magic literally does. It just kind of takes the greatest hits of Disney and throws them at you. But that being said, I love the CG animation, and I really love the way that Donald interacts with these iconic scenes, and I thought that was a ton of fun. You know what it reminded me of? It's basically a whole ride's worth of the Lilo and Stitch marketing campaign.
To an extent, yeah.
And I really find that to be a charming part of the attraction.
Unfortunately, that was one attraction I did not see on my Disney World trip.
I mean, look, it's a tough one to mix into your itinerary just because it's a long time commitment. And if I'm sitting down to watch a show, I'd honestly rather be doing Carousel of Progress or Country Bears.
And now it just recently opened in California Adventure too.
It did just recently open in California Adventure, but that's definitely the inferior version because there's not nearly as many physical effects in the theater. But that's the whole, like, I could spend 20 minutes talking about that. We don't have time for that.
I'll just have to see it next time I go to
theater, no less. Anyways. Dragon, nothing on Philhar?
Well, I mean, look, I've been to Philhar Magic, I guess a couple times. It is quite pleasant. It's quite pleasant. Essentially, it's kind of like Donald Duck trying to steal Mickey's thunder in a big way by stealing the sorcerer's hat and just kind of going on an adventure that way. It kind of, in many respects, it feels like kind of a literal sequel to Fantasia, but more Disney focused than kind of than like more like like literally Donald Duck in the actual Fantasia. Where again, it's like I don't know. There's a great novelty to that, and it does speak to that character and what he's doing. So it's cool.
Yeah, honestly, the only thing that keeps me from doing it when I'm at Disney World is the fact that I could just very easily look up a video of it, and yeah, it wouldn't be as great of a screen resolution or anything, but I could still essentially get the gist of it. Whereas I could look up a video of Country Bears or Carousel of Progress, but the fact of the matter is audio animatronics are audio animatronics, and being close to audio animatronics and seeing them perform is just something that I just have a fancy for. So, audio animatronics are going to trump screens every time.
Yes, and Pink Pearl adds in, we go to Philhar Magic every time. Duck Butt is classic, but we can sit in the AC and enjoy it. And yeah, Pink Pearl, I do echo your sentiments there. You know what is nice that they go in there, air-conditioned theater in the hot Florida weather. It's just comfy. It's again, it's just more comfort Disney via Donald Duck, only it's a little bit more grandiose and a little bit more spectacular.
You see, Carousel of Progress is my idea of just like absolute lap of luxury. Just sit down in the AC for 20 minutes, and you even have a little bit of a ride element as you're going around the building. Heaven.
All
right. Okay, so let's get into the ongoing voyage, which is, of course, you guys talked a little bit about the Mickey reboots. Anything else to add there?
Not really. I mean,
go on.
I mean, there's really not much. I mean, there are several episodes focusing on Donald, like one of my personal favorites of the news shorts being Split Decision, which also featured a return of Von Drake.
I love all the Von Drake stuff that they do with those shorts. I'll give them credit. Honestly, the best part of the shorts is how deep cut Disney they get. That's easily why I like the shorts so much. And I really hope that translates over into Runaway Railway and we get some like deep cut theme park references.
Yeah.
Seems that way. Go ahead, Dragon.
Personally, I'm not crazy. I don't know why I'm not super crazy about the new Mickey Mouse shorts as a whole. Every time, some of them Some of them might appeal to me, but for the most part, I don't know. Honestly, it's a very surface level thing. It's not reflecting necessarily the quality of them, but I'm still I don't know. I'm not crazy about a lot of the looks that the design, the tones feels a little off to me in places. But that's just me though. It's it's like it's good, but it's not for me.
But it's meant to emulate the old school.
That's the thing. Like I mean, I don't know. Like, especially a lot of stuff they do with Goofies and stuff. They really like many a time will just
Okay,
like,
well,
yeah.
to be fair, I'll defend Goofy because Goofy is like going way back. Like basically, Goofy was supposed to be the anger management character before they introduced Huey, Dewey, Louie, Chip, and Dale into Donald Duck's life. Like Goofy was one pissed off SOB when he was first announced.
Fair enough, but still, just the end might be deep cuts, might be true blue Disney, might be something interesting. Not for me.
All right, very good.
And while we're at it, can we point out that of the main three, Donald's had the least amount of voice actors.
That's true. That's true for sure.
I mean, he's at a grand total of 3. Mickey's had what, 5 or 6.
Pink Pearl loves the new Mickey shorts, and Saturday was cool. Duck mullet. Duck mullet.
Dragon, I'm curious. Even though you don't love the Mickey shorts, are you interested at all in Runaway Railway?
Well, I'm gonna have to be because it replaced my favorite attraction in the Disney Hollywood Studios. Apparently, I'm gonna have to like it.
I would.
Literally in the same building too. So let's just see how that goes.
I actually on the trip I went there, that was only a few, maybe even a month or so before, a month or a couple months before it officially closed.
Oh, you lucky SO.
Let me amend that. No,
I
it's not.
went 3 times in 2018, and both times they were just fucking behind. Yeah.
Let me rephrase that. Not my favorite track. That's right. It's not in the same building as my favorite attraction. I believe it took up the additional space. At the very least, it was one of the root causes. I can't remember entirely.
Attraction. I can clear this up.
What was the art animation exhibit?
That's still there.
Wait, are you serious?
I was talking about. Yeah, that's still.
No, Art of Animation isn't still there. I'm thinking of One Man's Dream.
Well, there goes.
One Man's Dream is definitely still there. I checked that.
I'm not sure where Art of Animation was because I didn't go to the park until 2018, so I didn't know there was other stuff in the Chinese theater besides GMR.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about the Great Movie Ride.
I mean, that's also great, and that's why I remember it specifically.
Talking about the Great Movie Ride too.
The Great Movie Ride is also.
I mean, that's what I was talking about when I said I went there months before it closed.
Yeah.
I don't know if the art animation was still there.
I don't.
I doubt it was. I think the art of animation closed a number of years ago.
Uh-huh. Okay, let's move on to happier things. Let's talk about DuckTales.
Woohoo!
Yes.
So DuckTales seems to be a proper reboot. To me,
essentially, with DuckTales, would I like to see more Donald screen time? Yes, sure, but at least in season 2, I feel like we've gotten to a point where they've kind of mastered the art of even if you cut away to Donald literally for a couple seconds in the episode, it's going to be one of the most memorable comedic beats. And so that kind of it took them a while to get there because frankly in season 1 there were way too many episodes where he's just not mentioned at all. But now that season 2's come around, I feel like they've definitely gotten in the groove of even if Donald's not a pivotal part of the episode, which he rarely is, they'll at least flash to him. They'll at least kind of give him a joke. And I really appreciate that. Also, I also just really appreciate the fact that Donald kind of, in this one, he has a bit of a troubled past. He doesn't necessarily feel comfortable with his legacy as an adventurer. He just kind of wants to put that life behind him and hang out on his houseboat. I really like all those elements of Donald as we see in the show.
And we obviously see a bunch of elements of classic Donald, like in the one episodes we just discussed recently, where he's going, he's basically molting due to stress.
Uh-huh.
And basically, it's like classic comedic Donald, but mixed with a bit of pathos.
So here's the thing. I've seen the first season of DuckTales, and I've seen a little bit of season 2, but it's very little bit of season 2, like probably the beginnings of season 2. Point being, DuckTales to me, again, like I'm not a huge lot familiar with the original DuckTales, despite the fact Alan Burnett did work on the movie for DuckTales. I'm well aware, but
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I really love the DuckTales explores kind of Donald's family. It explores Donald's family with a real story to it. We explore, it's like we're addressing the fact Donald Duck does have family. And we're kind of making we're seeing that in the real world. Like, of course, episode 1 still has me. We're like, Donald Duck is that great exchange with Scrooge McDuck. Like, jettison that jalopy from from the premises. That whole thing where he's just saying, Scrooge McDuck. He's just very nonchalant. I love the sense of history between Donald and Scrooge. And of course, as that unfolds in the narrative and everything, I guess put simply, the show adds a great level of layers and levels to Donald Duck. It's like I never thought we'd ever see that with the character applied in a narrative sense, and we do that in a big way. And of course, as things go on, we see he's kind of an unlucky but enduring character. Of course, an episode with that ridiculous Paul F. Tompkins character. But yeah, I think the point still lands there. Again, it's just the Donald. It's still true to who Donald Duck is, but we're kind of reinventing the wheel. Of course, like even still like episode 1 or 2, when we have like him working on the submarine for Gold way back when. It's just the guy looking for a job. Again, it's like Donald Duck, always kind of like the old occupation kind of comedy we'd have with Donald. Just kind of looking for a job, just doing a job, and But what we add to it is that he's earning a living, but he cares for his nephews a great deal. He worries for the danger and the trouble that comes with what they do, and of course, definitely is kind of tripled with Scrooge McDuck involved. It's a great, it's lovely.
Not to mention that his first job ended up being with Glomgold.
Precisely, and I just love it. They just show it again. He's very capable. He's very capable underwater, and he's on a ship and everything, and he's showing pictures of his nephews and everything. It's adorable. I mean, DuckTales.
Okay, you hit on something right there, Dragon, that I really appreciate about DuckTales is the fact that Donald is actually one of the most capable characters on the show, but the joke is that nobody can understand him.
Precise, and of course, there was a big episode where they did remedy that for a while.
I'm still not entirely sure how I feel about that.
So we did reveal apparently in the large, specifically for DuckTales, but in the grander sense, in the large canon of Disney, we learned what Donald Duck actually sounds like.
Don Cheadle.
Don Cheadle. I never would have guessed it personally. Don Cheadle. Rhodey, man. Rhodey's Donald Duck.
Yeah, Rhodey, come on. What's up, Rhodey? What else have you been holding out on us?
Iron Duck.
Good.
Or War Duck, I guess. War Machine, War Duck.
Well, he was in a war, so,
He's
Duck Machine, War Duck, whatever you want.
He's War Duck.
Yep. But seriously, I don't know. The Don Cheadle thing still I thought was hysterical. It's the fact that, again, I don't know. I think Don Cheadle was kind of it felt befitting of DuckTales, more accurately. Don Cheadle's felt like a fun pull. It's like, yeah, we're getting a good actor to play like Donald Duck. I don't know. That plays.
Yeah,
it works. So basically, this whole thing, he's even more. Basically, what we see is an even more relatable Donald Duck than we've had before. He's basically a Donald Duck who's more than just the iconography. He's the guy who gets angry, but again, as you said, Tiki, it's like we understand, like he actually is really good at what he does. He's built up like a legacy and all these adventures and all this grand history of all the stuff that he's done. He's actually developed quite the skill set, but again, no one takes him seriously because of how he sounds.
Mm. All right, and on that note, I guess my final thought is that is really kind of like one of the things I always appreciate about Donald, just in general. Dragon kind of transitioning there is that Donald is always kind of like the everyman who's underestimated, but he's got the skill set to pull it off. He's very determined, very talented in his own right, and I feel like there's something really inspirational about that. And not only that, but he's just got one of the most memorable voices in all of voice acting. and also just, very, very broadly comedic. So just generally speaking, I feel like Donald is a fascinating character in pop culture. Of course, we haven't even talked about the break. Do you guys know Donald Duck Orange Juice?
Oh yes, I'm very familiar with
Yeah,
it.
I mean, it's like, and then back in the day, there was Donald Duck bread. Donald Duck has his own branding as well. It's so, there's a whole Donald Duck empire we could get into. He's got video games.
I knew about the games. I never knew about the orange juice and bread.
Yes, the Dragon. Are you with me that it's damn good orange juice?
I gotta be honest, I'm not much of an orange juice guy, but I just appreciate the marketing.
I hear you.
I just like going down to a grocery aisle and just seeing like, hey, look, Donald Duck orange juice. That's nice.
I have to look that up now. I've never even heard of Donald Duck orange juice.
Yeah.
Oh, I see it all the time. And here's the thing: I don't know if they're still doing it quite like this, but I love that. Here's the thing: is I know they shut down the game, so I don't know if they're still making it. But I remember that on the back of a lot of the orange juice, they have the Xfinity thing with Buzz Lightyear on it. It delights me to no end that you have Donald Duck and you have like the Disney Infinity game with Buzz Lightyear on the back. Just having a little inane conversation. I don't know.
Oh God. So yeah, just generally speaking, I just gun to my back, Donald Duck, easily my top character in all of Disneydom, hands down.
Also, Pink Pearl says, "Happy birthday to the Bad Luck Twins," implying that Donald's birthday. It wasn't only Donald's birthday; it was Della's as well.
God.
True.
Completely over my head, by the way. Just not privy on all the Della Duck review. I just remember like Della Duck was in space, and I think we got her at it. I think revealed she's alive.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Well, but literally the start of season 2, though.
Yeah, I know. Still. Just to
All
be
right,
safe.
fine.
Just to be safe.
All right.
All right. Final thoughts, guys.
Happy birthday, Donald. I mean, it's been one heck of. You've had one heck of a career. I mean, he's been through ups and downs, highs and lows, but he always comes out on top, and we always laugh at his expense.
For me, Donald Duck he's the figure that, in many respects, Donald Duck is the figure that allowed Disney to be really funny. I'm not saying they weren't funny with Mickey. I mean, Mickey ushered in Disney as the icon, as the animation giant, again, kind of the mecca of all of that. Steamboat Willie's one of the first things that comes to mind. I know it wasn't the very first thing, but it's one of the first things that comes to mind. But again, Disney is... Sorry, let me rephrase that. But specifically, Donald Duck is us. Donald Duck is a reflection of us, of man. Donald Duck is a reflection of he's the relatable pillar of the Fab Five. He allows us to see ourselves, see our faults, and holds a mirror up to ourselves, and we can laugh at ourselves. Like, yeah, I did get a little flustered when I shouldn't have, And again, it's you kind of looking at yourself and you're laughing at that, and we empathize. It just Donald Duck's character makes us empathize with someone who shares our struggles and instinctually our instinctual reactions to difficulty. That's what Donald Duck is. It's something. It's Donald Duck's character who it's something that works and still works. There's something. It's crazy how something works and still works about this duck sailor with a lisp. It still works. It still holds up amazingly. So you think it would like okay, it's the duck with the speech impediment, to quote Daffy Duck from earlier on. That's pretty much.
With a speech impediment.
Again, 85 years later, it holds up. And again, we're reinventing it with DuckTales in a big way. We found a deeper sense of humanity to this character. Just kind of makes us laugh. Again, Donald Duck works as a surface level character, but also there's a deeper level there that, again, I think has always been kind of present. We've just kind of brought it to the surface now. So we're still discovering new things about these decade-spanning characters. He spun off beloved franchises because of that fact. The fact that he is kind of an ever-present, very important pillar of Disney. Again, branding in essence. And Donald is, I think, if you had
without Donald Duck, there'd be no Scrooge McDuck. Without Scrooge McDuck, there'd be no Indiana Jones.
Okay.
I mean, that part's a bit of a reach. I'm sure he probably would have come, but I mean, basically that's a whole other thing. I know you're just kidding anyway.
Yeah. But of course, like no Darkwing Duck, none of that. We don't have like a recent like we're bringing back Darkwing Duck in a new way, shape, or form through the DuckTales. We don't do any of that. Um, so Donald, at the end of the day, Donald is the explorer in many respects. Again, he's the sailor on a voyage. That's kind of what he is through life. Donald is the grand explorer, given like what he's done in his vastly 85-year history. He's going like, he's going on the goodwill trips. He's setting out. He's making new friends. He's gone on so many adventures, as we find out by the time of DuckTales. His path allows other characters to make their mark. Like, think about like I don't think Goofy gets to the point where he is to an extent without Donald. At the very least, without that alliance between those three characters. I don't think we build up a lot of. I don't think we build up. I want to say Donald Duck was created right after Mickey, before Goofy. I could be getting my years wrong.
Donald was definitely before Goofy. Yeah,
exactly. So that's the thing. I don't think we get a character like Goofy, or at the very least, we don't get a character where we don't get where we got with Goofy. We don't get like Goofy having a son. We don't get Goofy, having a beloved '90s film. We don't have any of that without Donald Duck making the strides that he did. We don't have like the built-in kind of like, we can explore other characters than Mickey. We can kind of see if there are any deeper levels, or we just kind of put him in things and see what happens. We can do various kind of clips and other things with these characters. We can breach them a little bit out of what they're doing, because getting us the original DuckTales even before this one. Like, we don't really get to that. Again, without just without making that initial leap that we do with Donald. We don't get any of the other stuff, and getting the crossover appeal, again, without taking our first steps. And oddly enough, Donald was the one on that voyage making all of that happen. Mickey's the security, Goofy's the educational, and the wit of just like kind of the witty comedy we can say about kind of this hapless character, the man who knew too little comedy. And Donald is exploring new frontiers as the sailor on the forefront of just kind of Disney to an extent. So it's quite wonderful. It's quite a legacy in 85 years, I must say.
all right.
We need to. Like, I'd like to see like the film project of Mickey, Donald, and Goofy be made officially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have a ton of ideas for, beyond that, just simply like a Mickey movie. Jacob, that's something that's been on the pipeline for us for quite a while. But I mean, no, I definitely think that there is quite a lot of potential for Donald going forward. And we'll just see where the winds take him.
The wind in his sails.
Yep. All right. Happy birthday, Donald.
Happy birthday, sailor.
And many years lay ahead.
Am I the only one who doesn't understand what this duck is saying?